Amid the ruins of the apocalypse, with monsters roaming everywhere, a truck speeds down the road. Inside, two survivors race to reach their families, but there's a problem. The monsters are closing in fast. Then, the main character, Kim, throws open the back of the truck and starts using his subspace. Refrigerators in particular prove remarkably effective. The monster dogs are crushed and scattered across the road. Kim even pulls out a Coke and a donut from his subspace, offering them to the driver so he can relax a little. But this isn't just any subspace. It's an entire logistics center, capable of infinitely multiplying resources, all under R. He can hide there himself at any time and even bring his friends into this safe zone. So how did he gain such an unbelievable power? It all began just a few days ago. The story starts with our 9-to-5 worker, Kim, talking to one of his clanker buddies at his job. He keeps yapping, but the robot doesn't really understand and ignores him. This facility is mostly filled with AI robots, so this is all the social interaction he can get. Our boy sighs since he is a bit annoyed by all the clankers and regrets ending up in a place like this. Just 2 months ago, he was full of hope and passion after being discharged from the military. However, it didn't last long as he soon got a text from his parents telling him that they were moving to a different city. This meant that our boy had to live alone in a studio apartment near his school. His parents had already paid 6 months of rent and he had some savings from his military service, but my man thought it was all sunshine and rainbows until he actually tried to apply for a job. Bro got rejected even before his interview as he didn't have more experience than his age. He texted his sisters who made fun of him even more. One of them suggested applying for the AI delivery companies since the work was easy. This is how he ended up in this place, talking to robots instead of actual people. As he is busy thinking, his manager walks up to him and mentions that they are out of tuna cans in the stock. However, the robot still shows that they have some left. He asks him to look for the boxes and before our boy can even answer, the manager is gone. My man just stands there thinking to himself how the sky is even colder than the robots. He makes his way to the back of the store and finally finds the missing boxes. As he retrieves them, he suddenly hears the door closing. Turns out that his manager has accidentally locked him in the back of the facility. Our boy accepts his fate and decides to just chill in the back for a bit since it doesn't really. He even sends a selfie to his sister. All of a sudden, she texts him saying that she heard a building collapsing in front of her home. Moments later, he gets a call from her, but as soon as he picks up, the whole facility starts. He panics as the staff orders everyone to evacuate. Trying to find a way out, he starts knocking on the door calling for help, but it's no use. Even his phone battery is dead, so he can't even call emergency service. To make things worse, someone violently starts smashing the door from the outside. Kim is no fool and deep down, he knows that if he opens the door or makes any sound. So he calmly sits his ass down and waits until it's all over. Fortunately for him, the banging stops and he ends up staying in the warehouse for 3 days. He assumes something big is going on outside since no one came to help him yet. However, being trapped in the warehouse has also saved his life, so he can't complain. While using the last of his phone battery to send a note to his sisters, he hopes a soldier from. Suddenly, a system notification pops up in front of him informing him that he has been chosen and has awakened an ability. His ability description mentions that he can store one object in his subspace. Seeing the system screen in front of him, our boy thinks to himself that he has officially started tweeting. The system asks for a confirmation one last time, and after he says yes, the entire center vanishes. Our boy sees the outside world for the first time in 3 days and quickly realizes that it's gone to hell. The system informs him that it'll take some time to shift the object to the subspace, but he is too. Suddenly, a massive shadow appears in front of him, and without even looking back, our boy can tell it's nothing good. He composes himself for a second and runs as fast as he can while screaming for help. While looking back, he notices that the creature chasing him is an ogre in judging but its speed. Lucky for him, the system finishes synchronization just as the ogre is about to rip him up. He quickly says yes to the confirmation message and gets teleported to his own subspace through a portal. The ogre is still outside and he can see him through the hole, but the creature can't pass. However, that's not even the most surprising part, as our boy looks back to find himself standing in the logistics center. As he tries making sense of all this, he gets a notification telling him that he has received a reward. This reward turns out to be a man of stone, and our boy has no idea what to do with it. Moreover, that ogre is still at the door knocking. Just to be safe, he confirms from the system that the creature can't come in unless. While looking through the system window, he reads some of the stats for the logistics center. Our boy notices that the center only has 2 minutes left and asks the robot. The robot explains that he has to continue providing power to the subspace in order to keep it operational. To do that, he can use his man of stones, as one of them will keep the facility running for 24 hours. Kim notices that his robot pal Pax has become smarter. While they are talking, the power suddenly shuts off. The robot warns him that without power, some of the food items and the robot itself. Apparently, there is a dedicated system inside the facility that stores and ships fresh veggies, meat, and even. Our boy quickly realizes that in his current situation, food is the most. He asks the robot how he can get more of these stones. The clanker mentions that in order to get more monostones, he must kill the. Our boy is a bit shocked hearing this, but he decides to use his man of stone to power the. In order to fight those things, he needs a weapon, so he starts looking at some toolboxes. He knows that it's too risky to attack the monsters up close, so he starts looking for things that he can throw. However, judging from the size of the tools, he isn't sure if they are going to do any. Still, our boy doesn't really have any choice, and it's not like he has to kill it in one shot, so he stops. As he expected, the strike does little damage to its thick muscles. After slashing the ogre for a bit, he goes back to check the remaining stock and realizes that he asks the robot to check for the remaining stock while wondering if he should use something heavier to target the joints. At the same time, the robot finishes searching and mentions that he has 15 axes left in the stock. Hearing this, he thinks to himself that he should use them sparingly. However, he soon realizes that the number of axes in stock was the same when he started. Our boy starts running to the tools section and notices a bunch of axes lying around. This is when the robot explains that no matter how many times he uses these items. In other words, he has an unlimited amount of supplies inside this facility. It also means that he can continue throwing axes without worrying about the remaining stock. However, his throws are still pretty weak and it basically tickles the ogre. Lucky for him, the robot mentions that he can do the throwing automatically by shipping the items outside. This ability has a 30 seconds cooldown, which will be reduced as the skill levels up. In order to ship an item outside, all he has to do is chant, "Ship it," while thinking about. Our boy quickly tries it and an axe flies straight towards the ogre, hitting him directly on the head and knocking him out. Kim is understandably baffled by the speed and asks the robot what's happening. Pax explains that the default speed for shipping is set to 40 miles per hour, but he increases it. Moreover, if he wishes to level up his skill, he might need more mana stones. At that moment, our boy finally understands the entire game and starts gearing up to go outside. Everything he needs, including the map, is already inside the facility. He simply marks his destination and decides to ride his electric bike, since traveling by foot is. Our boy dramatically takes his bike outside the subspace and urges everyone to hold on as he is about to come save them. Fast forward half an hour, my man has already killed 12 ogres. During his time outside, he learned that his subspace ability was kind of overpowered. Being inside gives him protection against the monsters while he can safely throw stuff at them. Even though the shipment skill has a 30 seconds cooldown and some distance condition, he can. Moreover, he also has a recall skill that automatically pulls the items back, allowing. This doesn't just work on simple tools. He can use this to recall mana stones as well, which means that he doesn't have to take a single step outside in the. By now, he has collected 13 mana stones, and as long as he can keep the facility running, he won't have any. With these thoughts, he steps outside the subspace since he also needs to get his family inside. However, he quickly notices something flying high in the sky and realizes that ogres aren't the only monsters. While he is distracted by the wyvern, he hears strange noises in the distance. Our boy immediately knows that it's a person calling for help. Surely enough, some old guy is being chased by a giant wyvern and he's too slow to escape. The monster strikes him down using its tail and continues following him. One of his friends runs over to help, but the monster casually ignores him and continues focusing on the old man. The guy wonders if it's targeting the old guy because he is an easier prey. With a knife in his hands, he thinks about attacking, but deep down, he knows it won't do a thing to the giant monster. While this is happening, both the men notice a bright light approaching from a distance. Before they can react, someone throws an axe at the wyvern, killing the monster. Outboy casually arrives on his bike and asks them if they are okay. The two men are completely shaken and questioned if he is a soldier. He points to his uniform and explains that he works in the warehouse of the logistics center. This surprises the men even more, and they assume he must have some powerful ability since he took. It turns out that one of the men also has an ability, but it's only driving and he has not gotten it. Our boy asks them if there are any other people around, and the men explain that a lot of people. However, it also attracted plenty of monsters, which resulted in most of the people dying. Currently, there's only 15 of them left and they are hiding in the terminal basement inn. The two of them came outside to scout for any roads that they can use to drive cars and also search for food. However, the warehouse building disappeared out of nowhere. Our boy doesn't want to take any hasty decisions, so he thinks it over for a bit and decides to. He knows that they are also putting themselves at risk by bringing him in. Moreover, they don't yet know how his ability truly functions, so if something happens, All of this sounded good until he actually went to the basement and saw a guy aura farming by standing over in. One of the men walks over to the guy asking him if everything is fine. The aura farming guy turns out to be their leader named Jinmok, and he explains that one of the ogres got lost. Lucky for them, they were able to strike first and took it down. Even though they didn't suffer any injuries, it shows that even this place isn't safe to. As they are talking, he suddenly notices our boy standing in the distance, and the guy mentions that he saved them earlier from a wyvern and that he works at the. He starts glazing our boy, telling them how strong he is. Hearing this, a lady walks over to him and holds his hands, thanking him for saving. Kim awkwardly stands there telling her that it was no big deal. This is when the leader guy steps in and apologizes on her behalf. He explains that the two men are like family to them and introduces himself as the. After all the thanks, he starts explaining what they have in storage and how they take turns guarding the place. The guy still doesn't know about the warehouse incident, so one of the men informs him that it. This shocks everyone since they were relying on the warehouse to restock food items. With their only supply option gone, the leader orders everyone to dig the tunnel as. It was already a part of their plan, but now it has become a necessity since they can't stay here without food. Everyone agrees with him and appears determined to dig the tunnel. Meanwhile, our boy is clueless about the whole thing and asks what they are talking about. The guy explains that there are people living in other places and they can only get to them. Unfortunately, every single exit is blocked except the tunnel, but that too is surrounded by a. They have been saving food items so they could slowly prepare to move out through the tunnel. But considering their current situation, they don't really have any time to wait around. Jinmok tells him that he doesn't really have to go with them since he can still leave this place on his bike. Our boy mentions that he also needs a car, so he can't really avoid the tunnel. In his mind, he knows that he can deal with the wyverns by himself, but he still doesn't want. Even though they look like good people, they are in survival mode and have been fighting monsters. It's better for him not to reveal too much information. He suggests going into the tunnel by himself to assess the situation first, but in reality, he wants to take When he killed the ogres earlier, he looked into the system for some upgrades. It showed him some new skills like precision delivery, shipping 2 items at the same time and automatic shipping. All of these abilities took 10 mana stones to unlock. Our boy decided not to use his mana stones for now and to save them for later. Kim grins as he thinks to himself that there is only one thing he needs to upgrade in order to kill these wyverns. His plan is to clear the tunnel by himself, collect all the mana stones and... However, it doesn't really work out that way, and he is now stuck with the guy from earlier, who is also... The guy mentions that they couldn't send him alone because it's dangerous, even though our boy saved both him. It's the same guy with the driving ability, so he asks him if he saw a pop-up when he... The man reveals that he only saw one when he first got the ability, but he still feels like he can. Bro ended up as an Uber driver in an apocalypse. Even our boy isn't sure about him and says that they can just walk if he can't drive properly. A few moments later, the driver guy climbs on the handlebar and starts riding the bike like. He explains that it's easier to see this way. Meanwhile, our boy is almost shitting his pants since he can't even see what's in front of him. The guy spots a wyvern in front of them and asks what they should do. They end up doing a drive-by and snip the monster in the head. With the wyvern down, they finally reach the tunnel. Unfortunately for them, even more wyverns are waiting for them at the entrance. The driver guy freezes in fear and starts counting his last seconds. Before he gets slimed, our boy opens the system window and quickly upgrades his shipping skill to reduce. The wyverns continue advancing towards the other guy, and just before they eat him up, Kim shouts. As the driver guy looks back, he witnesses the MC standing in front of a portal. Our boy uses 1 mana stone to reduce the cooldown of his ability by 5 seconds. He continues reducing it until it reaches 5 seconds and it can't go down any. Afterwards, he recalls the man of stones inside the subspace and asks the guy to stay. The man stares ahead to notice 2 wyverns running at them. Our boy ships another axe outside, and when the wyvern tries to attack, he simply... From inside, he can continue throwing more axes. The driver guy is shocked seeing all this and realizes just how powerful this ability truly is. He knows that if our boy wants, he can break through the tunnel without breaking a sweat. They need the tunnel to move vehicles and transport food, but for him, he's simple. He wonders how far he is planning to go since he can't use his electric bike. This is when the guy notices the man of stones left behind. Kim is a bit surprised to see that he didn't know about the Mona stones. He explains that the stones can be used to enhance their abilities, which also comes as a. The man asks him if he can break the tunnel on his own given how powerful his ability is. Our boy simply grins and avoids answering, which makes the man even more worried. Kim explains that he only wanted to come here and see if he could clear the tunnel by himself. Revealing his abilities wasn't part of his plan. Hearing this, the man feels bad and apologizes for ruining his plan. Our boy assures him that it's all good since he wouldn't be able to find his way to the tunnel without him. As the two decide to go back, the man questions how far he is planning to go with the vehicle. He reveals that he is planning to go to Jungbu to meet with his family. Something clicks in the driver's mind and he shouts that he is also planning to go the same way. His family lives somewhere in the middle, so he asks our boy if he can go with him. The man knows that he might not be able to make it back safely, even if they clear off the tunnel. Kim, on the other hand, can easily fight off the monsters. He suggests teaming up with him as the driver and our boy working as the fighter. Hearing all this, the MC realizes that it's not actually a bad deal. The man is pretty good at driving and teaming up with him will also allow him to hide his. He decides to trust the man and agrees with his plan, but on the conditions that he will clear the tunnel. The guy quickly agrees and assures him that he will convince everyone else. A few moments later, he is standing in front of everyone glazing our boy and his abilities. Now, everyone knows he is going to clear the tunnel alone, and he has some powerful skills. During all this, our boy just awkwardly stands there thinking to himself that he is screwed. However, since it's all in the open, he decides to go with it and announces that he will be clearing the tunnel by. He knows that they are worried about food, so he needs to clear it as fast as he can. When he is done talking, Jean-Marc walks over to him and says that they won't ask him about his abilities or interfere with his. This something turns out to be a bunch of food supplies that they had stored up. Our boy nervously apologizes to them, insisting that he can't take them since they. However, the driver guy assures him that it's fine and reminds him that he also has his. This throws our boy into deep thought as he wonders if they are okay. At the same time, the others bring out some drinks to celebrate their last night before they. The next morning, our boy prepares to raid the tunnel on his trusty bike and assures them that he will be back soon. Everyone puts their trust in him and patiently wait outside while he drives in. Just staring at the entrance, he can see tens of monsters casually moving inside the tunnel. We go back to a flashback into his past where he is fighting with his sister. His dad smiles as he looks at them fighting and says that they seem pretty close to each other. He mentions that he used to be an only child, so he is a bit envious of their bond. When they grow older, they will surely realize just how precious family is. Just as he is lecturing them, his wife shows up and reminds him that he needs to help her. The dad quickly obeys, leaving the kids behind. Just the night before the tunnel raid, he sat by the wall and watched as everyone cried for their loved ones. The driver guy woke up in the middle of the night and noticed that he was missing. He walked outside and saw him filling up the trucks. When asked what he was doing, he explained that he loaded all the trucks halfway with supplies to not make them too heavy. Since he had a lot in stock, it wasn't that big of a deal for him. The driver guy still couldn't believe he would do such a thing for them. Fast forward to the actual raid, and our boy is having no problem destroying all. In his mind, he wishes that he could put all of these people in the safety of his subspace, but it currently. At level 2, it can accommodate a maximum of 20 people, but it required 100. Even if he kills all the remaining wyverns in the tunnel, he might not gather enough. However, he still knows that he'll need to level up at some point since he has to put his family inside. While he is thinking, he suddenly notices a wyvern staring at him from a distance. This one looks a bit different from the others and has an unsettling aura. Meanwhile, everyone is still waiting for him outside. They are worried for his safety, but they also know they can't help him since they'll only get in his way. Suddenly, someone notices him coming out of the tunnel with blood all over his clothes. Initially, the people are worried, but when they notice the smile on his face, they all start celebrating. Since the tunnel has been successfully cleared, it's time for them to move out. Jean-Marc gives his parting speech and hopes for the best. Before they leave, our boy mentions that he has prepared a small gift for them in the trucks, so if the trucks finally start moving, and our boy parts ways with the group. Even though he is leaving, he is still stuck on that strange wyvern he saw in the tunnel. It ran away before he could kill it. Their truck suddenly drives over a dead soldier, but they don't stop since the bodies are literally everywhere. Our boy knows that he might have been one of these bodies if he was still in his military service. His thoughts are interrupted when they run into a barbed wire. They assume it was put up by the military to prevent the monsters from advancing. Given the situation, the driver guy suggests taking a different route, but our boy has other ideas. He spots a bunch of monsters on the other side and wants to use them to level up. Instead of going around, he asks the guy if they can use the narrow sidewalk to get through. The guy tells him that it's possibly, and that's all our boy needs to hear. The driver guy is still restless, and his nerves only get worse when he sees what lies ahead. An ogre is locked in battle with a pack of dog-like monsters. For a brief moment, the creature fights alone, but soon the dogs swarm it from every side. Within seconds, the ogre falls as if it were nothing more than common prey. The sight is so brutal that both men freeze in shock. He worries about their plan and insists that they should turn back and find another way. Our boy, however, shows no fear. He insists the route is the best option, and even compares the situation to a StarCraft, where players use. He explains that the same logic can apply here. The driver guy finds it hard to believe that a game tactic could be used in real life, but eventually, our boy instructs him to simply reverse the truck into that little sidewalk. The noise immediately draws the dogs' attention, pulling them away from their feast. At the same time, the hero turns to his system. He decides to use his auto-shipment ability earlier than expected, spending 10 mana. At the rear gate of the vehicle, he orders his system to boost his delivery speed using the remaining crystals. The stones are consumed, raising the shipment speed from 70 to 100. Our boy then opens the portal, challenging the beasts to attack with all their might. The fight erupts instantly. The hounds charge toward him at frightening speed, but before they can close in, his system announces that a massive, the heavy unit slams into the monsters, stunning them. Every few seconds, another fridge barrels through the portal. Within moments, a dozen hounds are crushed, and 12 mana stones are harvested. My man grins as he notices that his plan is working better than expected. His skills have clearly grown stronger since the tunnel fight, where he first experimented with his abilities. Though he could have relied on his axes, which now benefits from his speed boost, he learned that fast. Instead, he unlocked a delivery precision skill. It launches attacks directly forward, but only activates if the enemy stays in range. If he had used axes, their speed might have let them dodge and overwhelm him. Moreover, these monsters don't run away even when a bunch of them are killed. In this situation, he knows that in just a couple of seconds, another hound could close in on him. Swinging an axe against such fast enemies would not be very effective. When it slams into them, it doesn't just hit one, it crushes several together. Because of this, he hardly needs to lift a finger as the system handles everything. Watching the endless cycle, our boy grows lazy, and even a little bored. He orders his clanker buddy packs to keep sending deliveries without stopping, and the system obeys. The pack keeps charging, but another fridge always meets them head-on, killing. From the driver's seat, his friend stares in horror. He can't believe how this man is throwing refrigerators one after another, since he had always assumed his main. And unlike the axes, he doesn't even bother retrieving these fridges. Just then, the side door opens and R steps out casually, asking if he wants. Shocked, the driver blurts out a question, demanding to know if he truly has unlimited stock. For a moment, Kim looks puzzled, then asks him if he didn't already know. The driver quickly explains his misunderstanding. He thought he had been recycling the same axes by picking them up, not creating new. Our boy bursts out laughing, clarifying that he only retrieved the axes so no one else would get hurt. Leaving sharp blades lying around could cause accidents. Hearing this truth, the driver breaks into a cold sweat, and asks again if the resources are truly endless. My man quickly says yes and changes the topic back to food. Inside the vehicle, the guy lowers his head and apologizes to our boy. He admits he never really understood his ability, and feels guilty for receiving kindness, food. Our hero only smiles and reminds him of the day he chose to follow him into the tunnel for patrol. He mentions how he appreciates the trust shown to him, and promises to return the favor if. The driver guy also expresses gratitude, thanking him for taking care of him, and for wiping out the monsters, saying, He explains that once they cross the bridge, his house is only an hour away. Our boy is excited for him to be finally meeting his family. Even so, the driver worries about what condition his family might be in, hoping they. Kim notices his unease and lightens the mood by pointing out his torn, filthy clothes. He suggests preparing new clothes while the fight continues. When asked what kind of style he prefers, the driver admits he isn't sure if his system can create what. A moment later, my man is all dripped up looking like a seasoned monster killer. Our boy glances back, noting that only a couple of hounds remain, and the rest have already been dealt with. Suddenly, his transformed friend shifts into first gear and slams the accelerator. The vehicle bursts forward at terrifying speed, throwing up dust as it storms onto. Even our hero is startled, surprised at this sudden display of skill. He warns him to hold on tight, promising to cover the route in 20 minutes instead. The car sways dangerously, at times seeming to ride on only 2 tires, jerking from side to side. Soon the rough ride takes its toll and our boy groans that he feels like vomiting. But then his friend stops the car and announces they've arrived. The buildings are massive yet broken down, as if they have stood for centuries. Every structure around them is in ruins, but strangely, not a single corpse or bone is in sight. The place feels abandoned, completely different from the main street, with no trace of. At last, the driver guy reaches the gate of his own home. But when he faces it, fear grips him. His hands tremble and he can't bring himself to press the keypad. He dreads what he might find inside, thinking what he'll do if his family is gone. The hero watches from behind, silently understanding. This man drove the route in less than 20 minutes, but now he cannot take a single step forward. When there's even the smallest chance of finding loved ones alive, no one wants to destroy that hope by opening. If he were in his place, he would also hesitate. The guy feels nervous but agrees with the suggestion. Our boy knows no one wants to face a painful truth, so he decides to open the. He looks back one last time, but before he can ring the bell, the gate unlocks on its own. A woman and a little girl stand at the entrance. The woman cries out for her husband, and the child runs forward calling for her father. The moment the driver guy sees them, his emotions overflow. Tears stream down his face as he runs to embrace his wife and daughter. Seeing them so emotional, Kim feels genuinely happy that his family is alive. Curious, the guy asks why the wife opened the door. She explains that she heard noise outside, peeked through the peephole, and saw them. He tells them just how glad he is to know they're safe. Meanwhile, the daughter scolds him through tears, upset that he took so long to return. The wife then notices our hero and asks who he is. The driver guy introduces him as the man who saved his life and helped him reach home safely. At that moment, our boy suddenly feels dizzy and collapses to the ground as. Struggling to stay conscious, he mutters in disbelief, insisting he can't fall asleep like this. The driver guy catches him panicked, asking why he is collapsing. He remembers sitting with his father. His father smiles gently, explaining that farewells bring many emotions, not just sadness. Over time, memories mix together. Love, anger, regret, loneliness, happiness, and what remains should be gratitude, not just pain. The boy doesn't fully understand and asks what gratitude means. His father tells him it's gratitude for knowing real love, a love that expects nothing in return. He explains that love is never easy to give or receive, but one day when the boy grows older, he will understand. Another memory surfaces, one of a pillow fight with his sister Saul. She smacks him so hard with a pillow that he ends up with a swollen eye. Furious, the young Kim shouts at her for hitting too hard, but she only mocks him, calling him a crybaby, and he storms off, threatening to tell their father while she laughs, proud of her victory. He does complain to his father, but his father brushes it off, saying fights like this only show how close. He reminds his son that one day he will realize how valuable family bonds are and. From the kitchen, his mother interrupts, scolding her husband for lecturing the children instead of helping with dinner. She sets the table, calls everyone to eat, and yells at the eldest daughter, Juyeon, to put down her phone. She finally joins the table, though reluctantly. Their mother can't resist teasing her, joking that she must have a boyfriend since she never puts her phone down. She blushes and quickly denies it, insisting she's only in middle school and just chats. Before the teasing can go further, the TV blares with the sound of a commentator shouting about a brutal. Everyone's attention shifts. Her eyes glued to the screen. The older brother turns to her, reminding her that she'll soon be in middle school and encouraging her to join a boxing. The little sister agrees right away, and even brags that this is why she chose the school in the first place. Meanwhile, her brother isn't that young anymore either. He is about to start middle school and he feels a huge sense of relief, convinced he can finally. On his first day, though, he notices a difference. His classmates wear crisp new uniforms, while his own is worn out and oversized, clearly a hand-me-down. Still, he feels happy just to be wearing the uniform, even if it doesn't fit well. In high school, he finds himself once again in trouble, this time at the hands of bullies. 3 or 4 of them gang up on him, beating him badly. Just as the leader raises his fist to land a final blow, a hand grabs his wrist. With a cold, disappointed look, she stares at her brother's pitiful state before telling him that from the next morning, he'll be training with her. His heart sinks, as he knows her training will be pure torture. One day, a notification pops up. Their father announces the news proudly, leaving both siblings stunned. More time passes. One evening, while our boy is working at the computer, his dad calls him over and tells him it's time. He looks confused until his father hands him an official letter. The moment he reads it, his heart drops, since it's the government notice for his mandatory military service. The day of departure arrives. When his sister sees him with his short military haircut, she bursts. Meanwhile, his mother, worried, tells him to take care and come home safe. With a cheerful wave, the young man leaves alongside other recruits. His family waves back happily, but once he walks some distance, his true feelings break through and he. The scene shifts again. He realizes he is lying on a soft pillow inside someone's house. Confused and disoriented, he looks around, trying to make sense of where he is and what happened. As his memories return, our boy panics. He realizes he actually fainted, and the last thing he recalls is the driver guy reuniting with his family. Worried something might have gone wrong, he quickly summons his axe through a small portal. A voice behind him suddenly breaks the silence, asking if he is awake. Startled, he turns and sees the driver guy's wife and daughter calmly sitting at the. For a moment, they all just stare at each other. The wife explains that he had collapsed suddenly and fallen into such a deep sleep that she hadn't dared to wake him. Embarrassed at drawing his weapon in the wrong place, he quickly sends the axe back into his subspace and asks how. The wife replies that it was only 3 hours and expresses her heartfelt gratitude for how much he helped her. Our boy feels awkward under such appreciation, insisting it wasn't like that and that the. While they are talking, Young-soo wakes up and the wife urges our hero to eat first, reminding them her husband hasn't eaten. He nods gratefully and sits with his friend. The wife humbly explains that she did her best with what little they had, though she cannot. The hero thanks her, saying he isn't used to luxury and is grateful for whatever is served. When he takes his first bite, it feels like heaven. After so long, he finally tastes proper food, made with real ingredients. It reminds him of his mother's kimchi back home, the most delicious thing he ever had. In moments, his bowl is empty, and he thinks to himself that not since his military days has he. During the meal, the driver guy asks if his destination is Gangnam. the driver guy immediately offers to drive him there. The man explains that he already discussed it with his wife, and she agreed. It's their way of repaying him for helping them reunite. Our boy raises his hand, stopping him, and clarifies that Gangnam is only a stop. His true destination is Waijeongbu, which is much farther. The guy acknowledges this but says he has one condition, which they should discuss outside. Once outside, he proposes that they all go together to Gangnam in the truck. After he reaches his destination, the driver guy plans to use his electric bike to return home. Kim frowns, pointing out that the bike isn't enough for such a dangerous journey, but the driver guy. Our hero studies the driver guy carefully, wondering why anyone would take such a risk for him. The man has already reunited with his family, has enough supplies to survive, and reached safety. His driving skills are incredible, but even that doesn't explain why he'd put himself back in danger. Our boy straight up asks him why he is doing this, even though he is already united with his family. The driver guy looks him straight in the eyes and turns the question back. He asks him why he helped him back then. Hearing this, our boy falls silent. The guy explains that if the hero hadn't helped, his family would never have made it this far, and they would have died back in the tunnel. That's why he wants to return the favor now, to do whatever he can with his skills. He adds that they're both stuck in the same situation. His awakened ability may be powerful, but that doesn't make the road easy. The world may be ruined, but neither of them has given up hope for their families. Just as the driver guy risked his life crossing the tunnel, the hero is risking his life now. He makes it clear, though, that he won't gamble blindly. He'll do everything he can to help, but if things get too dangerous, he'll pull back. He's not foolish enough to risk his life or his family's without reason. The driver guy says his only wish is to support him, however possible. Our boy then explains that his ability, Subspace, creates an area no one can. As long as he maintains it, he can store or duplicate items inside. Kim continues. If the guy truly wants to help, he also has conditions. After that, he must go to Yeljiro, then Dabangu, and finally Wajungbu, searching for his family. Once he upgrades his subspace, he'll be able to bring people inside. That means the driver guy, his wife, and his daughter must come with him. Thankfully, after hunting the mutated hounds, he now has enough mana stones to upgrade. If the driver guy agrees to help him, then he'll protect his family as well. My man immediately drips up in his veteran uniform and says that he's ready. At the same time, Kim opens the system window and uses his mana stones to upgrade the. With this upgrade, the facility can now accommodate 20 people at the same time. He also gets a new ability that allows him store any item in front of him. The maintenance cost for the facility also rises to 6 mana stones. Our boy decides to ignore all these details for now and allows the family to enter. The three of them step inside, and for the first time, they witness something beyond the chaos of their world. Our boy introduces them to Pax and explains that if they need anything, they can just ask the robot. The wife feels hesitant using all the items since they seem too precious, but he assures her that the facility hasn't. After explaining everything to them, he informs the guy that they will leave in 30 minutes and decides to check. His main ability is to store any item in front of him in the subspace. Back then, when he first awakened his ability, he unknowingly put the. As a result, the Pax eye of the facility and his system merged, creating something far more powerful. From then on, his subspace gained more functions apart from just entering and exiting it. Since his abilities were so powerful, he didn't expect anything else for leveling up. However, now that he stares at the system screen, he can see that leveling up would allow him to store. The idea still makes him shiver. Moreover, for 50 mana stones, he can install a lab inside the facility that will allow him to combine and. He doesn't really have enough mana stones to try out this ability for now, so he decides to experiment with the. My man imagines testing the limits by trying to store something ridiculous, like the entire Earth itself. To his surprise, the system actually prompts him to confirm the target. Without hesitation, he gives permission, though in truth, it's a reckless choice. Fortunately, the attempt fails. The system informs him that the Earth is beyond range, everyone is safe, and disaster is avoided. Before he can dwell on it further, the driver guy interrupts with something practical. He has checked the routes to Gangnam and points out a road on a map. Our boy reminds him that he was supposed to play with his daughter instead of worrying about maps, but the guy admits once again how grateful he is. The hero tells him they're simply helping each other, nothing more, but he promises that he will keep giving his all. The next moment they are both in the truck, and the guy is all dripped up again. This makes our boy a bit nervous, and he asks him if he can drive slowly this time. As expected, the driver speeds up even more, saying it's his turn to repay. A few tears roll down Kim's face as he accepts his fate. As they continue driving through the abandoned city, the guy keeps yapping. Meanwhile, our boy is exhausted and just wants this road to end. But almost immediately, the driver spots something ahead that chills him. Spikes are buried in the ground to shred tires, and sprinklers are set up as if. He mutters that there used to be a military base nearby and wonders if soldiers are still here. The hero checks the side mirror and shakes his head. The vehicles and weapons may be military, but the people operating them clearly are not. Behind them, a military jeep comes into view. Our boy knows that it's been following them for some time, so they won't be able to just avoid it. He says he'll open a portal under the steering wheel and tells the guy to move into subspace. The driver hesitates, asking if he can really handle this alone, but the men casually get out with their weapons in hand. One of them complains that the driver ruined the trap by stopping too soon, before the spikes could burst the tires. The hero tries to ask what's going on, but the man only mocks him, ordering him out of the vehicle and. His tone is rough and threatening, but Kim complies. When the supplies inside are revealed, the men are overjoyed thinking they've hit the jackpot. One of them sneers, asking if he is some kind of delivery boy and whether the goods really belong to him. When he calmly says they do, the man laughs cruelly and declares that from this moment on, everything belongs to them. Our boy quickly realizes what these men are after. The one leading them puts on a serious face and demands to know where he got everything. The hero admits it came from a logistics center, but explains that even if he gave them the location, they wouldn't make. He only reached here after a long detour. The man narrows his eyes and asks how much food remains there. Our boy says he only brought a little with him, but there's much more left at the center. Suspicious, the man presses him, asking if he's telling the truth. Before the conversation can continue, another soldier reminds the leader that it's. The man nods, mutters that they have no choice, and orders his men to catch him. Before Kim can do anything, they start beating him up and cover his face with a cloth. When he regains awareness, he finds himself bound to a chair, treated like a prisoner. The men announce his capture to their commander. The fat commander asks him once again where he got all the food from. He reveals that he got it from the Gunpo Logistics Center, and the commander praises his choice, calling him smart. He then goes on to explain that they are in a military communications headquarters. After a bit, they see some huge wyverns flying outside the window. The fatty claims that he is strong, yet he almost died to one of them. Initially, the military tried fighting these monsters using weapons, but they failed. Then they decided to hire people like him to fight them. However, after joining the military, he realized that they were a lot more weaker than the monsters. This is when he decided to take over. After explaining everything, the fatty offers to protect him from the monsters and make him part of their. When he finishes yapping, Kim calmly whispers to himself that he was looking for something he could store. Without hesitation, he gives the order for Pax to store the Joint Command Communications headquarters. The next moment, the entire headquarters vanishes, and both of them are sitting out in the open. Soldiers and gang members alike stare at the empty space where the building once stood. Their commander paces, stunned and muttering that he cannot understand how an entire structure could disappear. Meanwhile, our boy feels a sudden physical backlash. He vomits blood and worries that storing large things in subspace causes dangerous. Outside panic spreads, soldiers tremble as a swarm of wyverns approaches, led. The gang leader tries to rally his men, insisting they must take down the smaller wyverns. He is left furious and alone, calling them traitors. The giant wyvern swoops in, and, after a moment of scanning the area, fixes it. At roughly the same time, he receives a system notice asking permission to admit a wounded soldier into. The injured man is the soldier he rescued earlier. He is weak and dizzy from the side effects, and he thinks that next time he must be more careful about. The gang leader tries to attack the wyvern with full force, boasting about his strength, but the beast kills him in. Our boy ignores him and carries the injured soldier to a bed inside subspace. He and the driver guy check the wounds, and, with no medical expertise, can only. From the wounds and the soldier's condition, they suspect gang torture and prolonged malnutrition rather than a. Their conversation turns to the new communication headquarters building he put inside the subspace. The driver guy confirms what he suspected, telling him that the area around the logistics center has indeed expanded. Kim had been blindfolded when taken inside earlier, so he never saw its full size, but now seeing the real, he asks Yongsu to watch over the soldier and decides to explore. The base is far too big to move through on foot, so he borrows a bicycle to travel faster. He realizes the place is full of guns, ammo, explosives, vehicles, and gas masks. It's exactly what survivors need in this world, but unlike the logistics center where Pax handles inventory and weapons here, magazines there, explosives, and another wing. He will have to physically fetch items from different sections and assemble them manually. That complexity worries him, as he believes that supplies here are finite, not. The AI drone suddenly hovers overhead and speaks, explaining that the subspace program is linked to the logistics. The drone says the sector he just added is being integrated, and will be treated. The hero asks if rifles and ammo can be duplicated and shipped like items from Sector 1. The drone confirms that is the goal, but the classification process is only 0. If the hero needs something urgently, the drone offers to prioritize and code specific items first. Our boy requests rifles, ammo, grenades, vehicles, and fuel. The drone acknowledges the order and says priority coding has begun. As a safety measure, he asks the drone to lock access, so only he can use the items. The drone confirms that restriction is possible. He trusts the driver guy and his family, but he also has a soldier in the subspace, so. Before leaving the base interior, he peers outside through the portal and sees corpses scattered everywhere. Kim mutters that the problem outside is far from solved, since there are still 2. Moreover, he isn't planning on letting the giant one go this time. The scene shifts as the group prepares themselves. The driver guy recalls his military days, thinking back to the time when his shooting skills were sharp. He wonders if after so many years he still has that ability. Meanwhile, our boy sets out boxes of magazines, explaining that each one holds at least 10,000 rounds. Even if a gun fails, he should simply discard it and grab another. The system had unfortunately registered the magazines separately from the guns, making things more cumbersome. For his own sake, he asks the guy if he knows how to shoot. My man simply picks up a gun, telling him that he would rather show than explain. He starts firing continuously, unleashing a relentless wave of bullets. The 2 of them pause to take a break since all the wyverns appear to have died. However, our boy knows that something is off since he can't see the corpse of the big. He reminds them that the corpse of the massive wyvern is nowhere to be seen. Outside the portal, the giant wyvern lurks silently, lying in wait for an ambush. It even tests the portal, but fails to enter without the hero's permission. Suspicious, the driver guy examines the fallen bodies but finds nothing hidden. Instead of stepping out blindly, they can use a remote control decoy. If the monster attacks, they will know it is still waiting and start shooting. They build a dummy, place it on a remote control car, and send it out. The driver guy prepares to shoot, but when he actually locks eyes with the monster, he freezes in shock. The wyvern hammers at the portal in frustration but cannot break through. Our boy shouts for the guy to snap out of his fear and join the attack. Shaken, he obeys, and together they pour gunfire into the wyvern. But even after countless bullets, the monster stands unharmed. Our boy remembers the words of the fake commander who told him that his attacks weren't working on the dragon. Even now, it doesn't seem like the bullets are being stopped by the hard skin, but the wyvern roars again, furious. At that moment, a grenade rolls at its feet. The MC wants to test if overwhelming explosions will break through the defense. He throws grenade after grenade, duplicating them endlessly, while his friend joins in. For a long while, the air shakes with non-stop detonations. At last, they pause as their muscles give up. But when the dust clears, the giant wyvern is still standing. The only mark left is a faint scratch on one claw, which it raises mockingly as if to show how useless they're. My man can't believe how this monster can withstand a brutal assault. Then to his shock, the beast simply turns and walks away. Our boy is still uneasy and thinks the retreat isn't because of them, but for some. In any case, now that the monster is gone, they can continue moving. While driving in their military jeep, the guy admits that he has never seen. Kim agrees. Disturbed by the memory of the grenades doing almost nothing, he reflects that grenades are meant to kill instantly. Yet against this beast, they barely made a dent. He thinks about stronger explosives and bombs that could destroy entire cities, but using them, even then, there's no guarantee such monsters would die. If he went that far, others might see him as a villain worse than the creatures themselves. He realizes he needs an ideal weapon. Something as powerful as a bomb but targeted, fast and precise, causing minimal. For now, grenades remain his best option, but he must keep improving his powers to prepare for even. Checking his system, he finds he has gathered 314 mana stones from the endless waves. The number shocks him as it's far more than he expected. Using them wisely, he begins to strengthen his abilities. He increases his launching speed from 100 to 150 km/h, reduces his shipping. Even after these costly upgrades, he still has 189 stones left. There's more. One thing that he has his eyes on. To test it, he asks his driver buddy to park the car so they can rest and experiment with his latest power. The driver guy studies the road ahead and points out that Gangnam isn't far now. Since there are no monsters nearby, he suggests Kim should enter the portal while he keeps driving. Our boy hesitates, thinking it sounds risky, but the driver guy assures him he isn't tired at all and, to ease his concern, he proposes keeping the portal open inside the car. That way, while the car moves forward, the portal will move with it, and if anything dangerous. Hearing all this, our boy jumps inside the portal and starts exploring his new lab. As he explores, a screen appears with options. The first option is Combine, allowing him to merge two or more items regardless of their. The second option, Separate, lets him divide any object into parts without. A third option remains locked. Our boy immediately imagines the possibilities. He could merge a gun and a magazine into one complete weapon. He could even remove parts safely like a grenade safety pin without triggering it, since objects. To test this, he registers a grenade without its pin, spending 15 mana stones. It may not be enough to crush a massive wave, but it's still a useful tool. Merging 2 magazines into one to double the bullets, or perhaps combining different objects to crush. Meanwhile, outside, the driver guy stops in front of a barrier made of cars. He stares in disbelief, wondering how anyone could build such a wall. At that moment, our boy steps out of the portal and notices the huge barrier ahead. The driver guy suggests turning back, but he shakes his head, insisting that the barrier isn't a problem. Without warning, a massive object shoots from Kim's portal and slams into the barricade. The impact unleashes a series of violent explosions. Cars fly apart, scattering like toys, and within moments the road is completely clear. The driver guy is stunned, unable to believe what he just saw. His weapon is nothing more than several heavy iron rings launched at 150 km/h, but the noise alarms the guards inside the building. They argue about whether the barricade really fell, but when they look, they see a military vehicle approaching. The car screeches to a stop in front of them. Through the rolled-down window, our boy calmly asks if Nurse Julian works here. His sister Sol runs at him with her usual dramatic moves, landing a kick while their eldest. Irritated by the noise, she scolds them for disturbing her concentration. Her sudden seriousness shocks her siblings, as she had never cared much for studying before. When their mother asks if something is wrong, she tells her that it's nothing and she has simply found her dream. She holds up a novel, The Apple Tree Story, and declares her desire to become a nurse. At first, the family doubts her, but her determination proves real. Over time, her grades rise and eventually she is admitted to nursing school. Back in the present, she finally sees her brother again. Kim cries even harder, relieved that she has survived. After calming down, he introduces the driver guy, telling her that he helped him along the way. The sister suddenly remembers she has a chocolate bar and tries to offer it, but our boy laughs and instead, he leans close and whispers that he has a patient. The word instantly changes her expression, and she demands to know where the patient is. He explains that the patient isn't physically here, but inside his ability Subspace. Surprised, she realizes that her brother is also unawakened. He nods and says he needs to open the door discreetly, away from watching eyes, so no. He thinks for a moment, and suggests they go inside the hospital instead. They should be able to find a quiet corner or an empty room there where he can safely open his portal, The building is still full of patients, just as it had been before the world changed. Eventually, they step into a staff room, and the driver guy quickly closes the door. At last, he opens his portal and takes his sister inside. Like anyone who steps into it for the first time, she is shocked by the huge buildings in front of her. She asks what all this, but he simply tells her that he will explain it all later. He leads her to the injured soldier, and after her initial analysis, she shakes her head. Her words shock her brother and the driver guy, but then she explains that things are a little different. Her ability is healing. Her level is still low, so she cannot cure him fully, but she can at least stabilize him so he doesn't die. She has already given him some first aid. What he needs now is food and nutrition to slowly recover his strength. With a smile, he reminds her of the time she once said she would still heal the sick even if the world ended tomorrow. She gets annoyed that he brought up such a childish memory and says that she should have disciplined him properly. After taking care of the patient, she asks him to explain everything properly, so he begins telling her his whole story, how the system. While listening, his sister happily eats the food in front of her. Our boy notices that she seems more focused on eating than listening, so he asks if she is paying attention. She insists she is, but when he tests her, she repeats only half of what he told her. Soon after, she meets the driver guy's wife, Yu Young, who welcomes her warmly. She praises her cooking, which makes the wife smile with pride. The wife mentions that she even prepared a bed upstairs for her to rest, though Kim tries to. She insists that she did it because she wanted to. Once she leaves, the sister turns back to our boy and asks how he met this family. Kim sighs and says he already explained, but to summarize, his goal now is to bring his entire family. He has already managed to bring her here, and next he plans to bring their other sister. For that, he needs to travel to the El Gyro. He is shocked and asks why. She explains that she must stay here because this hospital shelters around 300 patients who, other nurses can help, but the real issue lies deeper. The scene shifts to the upper floor of the hospital where two men are discussing the hero's arrival. One confirms that after the explosion outside, a military vehicle entered and immediately asked. The guy in charge turns out to be Jin Songhak, the head of the internal medicine. After hearing all this, he decides they are probably not enemies. He says they should offer food and shelter to his group, but keep control of supplies and make strategic use. The guy looks back at a huge muscular man and asks if those guys are stronger than him. The big guy appears done with his yapping. They also mention the barricade outside. The big man explains that he already rebuilt it, piling the vehicles even higher than before. Back in our hero's subspace, his sister quietly reveals what worries her most. She suspects the department head is controlling people by poisoning them. She believes the man has some sort of ability tied to poison, strong enough to turn others. With the exception of herself, almost every awakened person here has already fallen under his influence, working for. She swallows her food and explains that she suspects some of the other nurses may also have. Quietly, she has been stealing mana stones to strengthen herself, but her level is still too low to cure. That is why she wants to stay in the hospital. She insists that he should go instead, gather their parents and the other sister into his subspace, and once she figures, our boy refuses immediately, which makes her frustrated. He explains to her that if poison is hidden in the food, then the solution is simple and he can resolve it easily. The sister is stunned by his sudden confidence. She even mutters that he must have gone crazy again, like back in school, but her disbelief turns into shock when he reveals. It doesn't take long for the news to reach Jean, the head of the internal medicine department. He dismisses it considering it unimportant, but when a subordinate mentions that he assumes it can't be much since they came here in one military vehicle. Sooner or later, their food will be stolen, and they will come begging to him for help. But his smugness disappears when the subordinate insists that the newcomers actually have more food than the hospital had collected its supplies with a whole truck, and yet these two carried even more. The only explanation, he reasons, must be a special ability, perhaps something that shrinks containers or whatever it is. He decides he must bring them into his team. The man then gives his subordinate a drug and orders him to make the big guy who. If he refuses or resists the addiction, the big guy can kill him on the spot. He also mentions that the other guy who came with him should also be dealt with. The story shifts back to Kim inside the hospital. He distributes food to the patients while quietly scanning the crowd. Kim had asked his sister about the abilities of those under Jin's control. She admitted that most of them were harmless, except for one. She warned him about the big guy named Song Hyung-gu. He was so strong that even in these dangerous times, he had traveled alone from Ulgyro just. She told Kim that the massive barricade of cars outside the hospital was his doing, and he had stacked them with. Back in the present, it doesn't take long for our boy to come face to face with the big man. Just a single look, and he can tell this is the guy his sister was talking about. Our boy smiles, claiming that he also had some business with him. The two decide to take it outside, where the big guy declares that our boy has only two choices. He can either drink the medicine he hands him or die on the spot. Our boy realizes this was why Big Daddy lured him out here, where escape would be impossible. Instead of choosing, he smirks and declares a third option. Enraged, the man charges at him with terrifying speed, but our boy retreats into. Before the big guy can react, a bowling ball hits him in the chest at a terrifying speed. Kim doesn't want to hurt him badly, so he is going easy on the speed. However, in order to bring him down, he needs to continue firing. While the guy struggles to get up, our boy seizes the chance. He quickly constructs a giant tower around him, sealing him inside. This makes him relieved, since he was able to capture the big guy without seriously. He goes back inside the hospital where his sister approaches, asking where he had gone. He begins explaining that he just came back after encountering the big guy and points outside. When she looks out the window, she is shocked to see him trapped and asks how he did it. Just then, the driver guy arrives, holding his head and groaning from a sudden headache. The sister immediately recognizes the symptoms, as it's the same drug they have been trying to cure in others. But the guy swears he never ate anything himself, only distributed the food. A moment later, Julian spots blood dripping from his finger and realizes the truth. Someone deliberately poisoned him while he was handing out food. He pulls the driver guy into his subspace to ask him to rest for now. However, the strangest thing happens as he steps inside and his headache disappears instantly. Kim quickly understands that his ability itself has broken the drug's influence since the system. Testing this theory, he pulls the big guy into his subspace and then sends him back out. Just as he expected, the doctor's control over him shatters. Free at last, the man rushes to embrace his sick mother, the one he had fought so hard to protect. With tears in his eyes, he apologizes to the hero for his earlier hostility. Grateful, fueled by rage and relief, he vows to settle the score with the doctor, who had kept him and his mother. The scene then shifts to Jin as he stares out his window, realizing in shock that his grip on his minions. When the big guy storms into the room, he desperately demands answers, clinging to the foolish hope that. But the man's fury is written all over his body, leaving no doubt about what will happen. The doctor knows it too and makes one last effort to save his life by politely asking. Bro gets crushed like a walnut the very next moment. Meanwhile, our boy and his sister discuss how to cure the patients who have become dependent on the doctor's drugs. The medicine has created an addiction and the problem now is how to free them completely. He suggests a bold idea. Ordinary medicine won't work, but his subspace has proven effective. Since Youngsu's symptoms vanished inside, bringing all the patients into his subspace might be the. Before they can act though, they notice something unexpected as the patients are slowly. As they watch in surprise, the big guy returns. His words, combined with the sight of the recovering patients, are enough for the hero. The man thanks him once again, speaking on behalf of himself and his mother, because without him, neither of them would have been freed. When he shares where he plans to go next, the man warns him of danger ahead. On his way to the hospital, he had seen something unusual, a giant wall rising. Though he couldn't measure it exactly, he believed it to be as tall as a building. With such size, traveling through the city by road had become impossible. It would take immense energy and time, a fact that needed no further explanation. The monsters in this new area are different from the ones he has faced before. From the big guy's account, most of them are skeletons and undead beings. This unsettles him because such creatures don't really die and they always rise again. Even after hearing all this, Kim isn't really concerned for his other sister since she is a monster herself. Suddenly, he hears his sister's voice from inside his subspace. She informs him that the injured man they had rescued earlier has regained consciousness. Soon, the scene shifts to the soldier inside the facility. He expresses gratitude to him for saving his life and introduces himself. Our boy checks on his condition, and when the soldier asks about their location, he explains. This confuses the soldier, since the military base he served at was supposed to be here, but he. At that moment, the elder sister clarifies everything, explaining exactly where they are. When the soldier learns they are near Gangnam City, he asks to be dropped there. At first, the MC and the driver guy think the man might be suspicious, worried they might harm him. But the soldier quickly assures them that he holds no doubts since they saved his life, and for that, his request is not out of fear but urgency. He must get to the Joint Chiefs of Staff HQ and report everything that happened at the. Realizing how serious this is, the hero offers him food and asks him to share what he knows. The soldier initially hesitates but quickly folds over some pizza. He explains how one day outsiders began appearing in their world. These weren't just monsters like the hero had seen before. They included bizarre insects, strange animals, and even alien trees. The land itself started changing, as if mountains and terrain from another world. The creatures were extremely dangerous, attacking anyone in sight, and sometimes weapons were useless against most of them, so the government began recruiting awakened people and formed. These teams made real progress, and for a while their region stabilized. But then a certain beast appeared and things worsened again. Soon, more and more monsters emerged that regular weapons couldn't harm. Desperate, they sent repeated wireless requests for aid to the command center. With no support coming, they hired awakened people on their own, and marched toward the command center. But when they reached it, they found the place deserted. Records revealed a rebellion had taken place, and the command center was emptied out. From there, the situation spiraled. Some of the awakened they had hired betrayed them, and the land became overrun. The military was split in two. The rebels blocked government relief efforts and twisted the chaos into. For the soldier, getting this information to his commander is a matter of life and death. The hero assures him that he understands, though he admits he cannot take him all the way to Gangnam. Instead, he promises to bring him as close as possible to the command center before parting ways. The hero and the driver then explain their planned route and where they will drop him off. After telling him to rest, our boy opens the portal, and the driver guy prepares to leave with him. The soldier casually watches while wondering if the two of them came across the giant dragon, since they were there. He gets his answer soon enough as he witnesses an ogre standing right outside the portal. Just as he screams to warn them, the ogre gets blasted by one of Kim's heavyweight bullets. The soldier quickly realizes who he is dealing with. However, this is not all, as our boy casually ships a military vehicle out the subspace. He looks back and informs him that they'll keep the portal open for him so he can see what's going outside. Meanwhile, the guy is too stunned to even hear a word. The two of them continue blasting monsters as they move while the soldier sits in the. He finally starts to realize that he isn't dreaming, and this is actually real. Just when the guy decides it's time to head back inside the portal, they run into a problem. Turns out, the bridge in front of them is busted. Our boy apologizes, telling him that it might take them longer than they initially thought. The soldier, however, doesn't care since they are already ahead of time by a long shot. It's all thanks to Yangtze's incredible driving skills. Bro literally two-wheel Arabic-style maneuver and clears every obstacle known to man. Even the destroyed bridge is no challenge for him. However, they still don't know how they are going to get over that massive wall. For the time being, they decide to continue driving and drop the soldier along the way. When they finally bring him close to the command center, the soldier tries to persuade. He explains that awakened people are being supported by the government with technology and monostones to help. Our boy, however, refuses. He makes it clear that his family comes first, and he and the driver are capable of collecting stones on their own. Still, he has an idea. He asks if the chief of staff has a helicopter. The hero's plan is simple. Instead of crossing the massive wall that blocks the road into the next city, he intends. Together, they enter the command center. The chief is in his office going over their current situation as most of their divisions. Suddenly, a soldier walks into the room and informs him that the leader of the DCC's 50th signal. Apparently, he is the only one who survived in his battalion. Hearing this, the chief immediately calls for the soldier. He also explains how Kim and the driver had saved him. The chief of staff listens carefully, then invites them upstairs. He thanks them for their efforts, saying their actions not only saved a soldier, but also helped the country. When the hero asks for a helicopter, he offers food, water, and supplies. The chief says the helicopter is indeed possible, but with one condition: he cannot give it freely. If the hero joins the military as an awakened fighter, then everything he needs will be provided. The government itself may not even be stable anymore. That is why he so desperately needs the hero's help. Our boy rejects the offer once more. Without his agreement, the chief refuses to hand over the helicopter. Yet, as the hero walks away calmly, showing no frustration or hesitation, he knows the man before him is far too valuable to let go so easily. He explains that a group of awakened soldiers is trapped at Seoul Station, surrounded by countless. They still manage to send signals, but they cannot break free. If he succeeds, the helicopter will be his. Even though the skeleton monsters come back to life after being killed, there is one way to make sure they all of them have a core inside, and once that core is destroyed, a skeleton cannot come. This sounds easy enough for our boy, and he heads into the skeleton territory with a bunch of military trucks. They continue smashing the skeletons with his ability until they finally reach the awakened soldiers. The trucks then successfully rescue the soldiers. While making their way back, our boy thinks about what the chief told him earlier. Even though his ability is effective against the smaller skeletons, there is a rare skeleton. The chief had warned him to stay away from that skeleton. Of course, our boy doesn't listen and shoots a 200-kilo bullet at the skeleton on first sight. To their surprise, the skeleton uses his sword to cut clean through the bullet. The next scene reveals the shock of the soldiers and the military. It tries to speak. At first, its words are incomprehensible, but then it uses a strange, magical item. The boss monster introduces itself as Gwaine, one of the 12 knights who serve the. Our boy quickly notices that Skeleton Knight has crushed magic stones to cast a spell, making his words understandable to humans. The skeleton questions him, asking if he is a mage bold enough to challenge him, and why humans are so. He even comments on human impatience, calling this only the first stage of something. But before the skeleton can continue, our boy suddenly launches an attack. The skeleton knight blocks easily, but our hero doesn't let up. None of his attacks land a real blow, yet he manages to study the skeletons. Deciding to push further, he spends 50 stones to upgrade his ability and unlocks. With this skill, he can ship items to strike in a precise sequence. The relentless assault continues until the monster finally reacts in anger, a sign that, using what he learned from the chief of staff earlier, he orders Pax to target the. He continues changing the direction of the attack, hitting the monster from all angles. Seeing all the damage, the driver guy thinks they are safe for now. However, our boy is still tense and mentions that the skeleton knight seems even stronger than the giant wyvern. At last, his relentless bombardment cracks its hard bones start to break. Our boy decides to use this chance and commands the AI to ship stacks of plates from all. This is enough to destroy the knight's core. Before dying, Gwaine mutters his final words, warning him that this battle doesn't end here, and he will give. Our hero then gathers the loot he leaves behind, 2 large mana stones, and 1 enchant stone. Our boy has just slain a boss monster the chief of staff himself had advised him to avoid. Even the chief is shocked but deeply impressed. He urges him and the driver once more to join the army, admitting he already sees them as comrades. Like before, the hero declines his offer, urging that his family comes first. Hearing this, the chief says that once he reunites with his family, he hopes he will reconsider. Our boy understands, but he feels like the chief is expecting too much from him. The fight with the skeleton knight just now was much harder than he imagined. If there was another monster like it, he would have lost for sure. What troubles him more than the offer is what the skeleton knight revealed. If this knight was only one of 12, then 11 more powerful monsters are still out there. Adding to the strangeness, his heavyweight bullets proved useless against the skeletons. While bizarre methods like throwing bowling balls seemed far more effective, even our boy can't make sense. The chief of staff then warns him about his destination. He explains that they had once sent people to investigate that area, but the rising wall cut them off completely. No one has returned since. Still, aerial vehicles sent occasionally confirm that communication remains active, so the people. He reassures him that if his family is there, they are still safe. It's none other than his second eldest sister. Compared to the monsters from another world, she's almost a monster herself. The chief also mentions that during their survey, they also discovered that the upper part of the wall. He says that it's a good thing he's getting the helicopter now since the wall hasn't completely. After this, the chief of staff shows Kim and the driver the helicopter prepared for them. Our boy looks ahead to see an old broken down helicopter, but he thinks it's fine as long as the. However, the chief points to a different, much better Black Hawk and reveals that this is what they are getting. Considering what he has already done for the country, this is the least they can offer. He admits he already sees him and the driver guy as close allies and wants them to realize how important they are for everyone's survival. Right then, the driver guy sees a system window for the very first time in his life. It tells him that he can unlock the ability to pilot this helicopter if he spends 50 mana stones. His unique skill, the driving goat, allows him to operate any vehicle with ease. Unlike our boy though, he has no concept of leveling up. Instead, whenever he wants to use a new vehicle, he just has to register it with mana stones, and then he can. The chief of staff then hands over a suitcase filled with stones. He admits that he had planned to give it to them as a gift when they got on the helicopter, but now feels this is. Inside are 200 mana stones. The driver guy takes just 50, enough to unlock the helicopter skill, and passes the rest back to our boy. Overjoyed, the driver guy is eager to test out his new ability. Soon, both of them climb aboard the helicopter and begin preparations for takeoff. The driver guy makes a terrifying expression and claims that he knows how to fly the helicopter now. Our boy begs him to go slower this time, but he refuses like always. This makes our boy cry as he knows how harsh this ride is going to be. While his friend gets the helicopter ready, he checks the notifications from his subspace. He sees that he still has 2 large mana stones and 1 enhancement stone. Since each large stone equals 100 normal stones, his total now. He immediately spends 1,000 stones to upgrade his subspace, though he remains uncertain. The system explains that this stone carries the fire attribute. Its fire level is low, but it still grants 2 special effects, penetration and ignition. The description also clarifies the difference between ordinary stones and enchantment stones. Both share the same origin, but enchantment stones carry unique properties. The exact effect depends on the stone's attribute and level of power. For instance, if he fused the firestone with an automatic gun, the bullets would turn into. He only has one enchantment stone, and using it carelessly would be a waste. After thinking it through, he chooses not to use it on a gun or a grenade launcher. Instead, he decides to enhance the one weapon that has already proven effective, the bowling ball. His iBuddy registers it as a unique item at his request. It makes perfect sense. The skeleton knight was unaffected by guns or explosives, but the bowling ball brought it down. With 11 more knights still out there, he believes it's wiser to strengthen the very. Adding literal firepower to his bowling ball feels like the smartest move he can make. While he is busy looking at the system window, his friend tells him that they are ready. Just then, another notification window pops up. The upgrade process for his subspace is complete, and several new functions are unlocked. Our boy stares at this new notification with horror in his eyes. The chief watches them as they fly off and wonders why he is making that expression. Turns out that he has some new unlockable skills now. All of them sound great, but what's changing his expression is the last skill. According to the description, unlocking that skill means that his subspace can register external odd. Of course, none of this comes for free. Every action costs stones, and the price depends on the size, weight, or value of what he. On top of that, just unlocking the new functions already took 250 stones. Still, our boy knows these new powers change everything. Before, he could only use the fixed supplies and products from his logistics center or. Now he can collect, store, and use almost anything he finds in the world, and that's a complete game changer. At the moment, his subspace only has two categories, logistics center, and. That limits him to items that fit into those types, but then our boy does something unexpected. He double-checks with the system, then registers the helicopter they're flying, the Black. Instantly, the helicopter becomes part of his facility, and right in front of the chief of staff's eyes, he pulls out. Meanwhile, we cut to the Skeleton King sitting inside a fortress deep within the. He explains that it doesn't make sense since entering this world requires an 8th tier permit. In simple terms, any high-level mage who wants to enter must lower their power before they're allowed in. That's exactly what he himself had to do, but he wonders, why would such a powerful mage agree to this? From his view, the mage is none other than R, who just killed one of his subordinates. To the Skeleton Lord, he looks like a great sorcerer who arrived early to claim this world before it fully. That makes him extremely dangerous in his eyes, though he doesn't want to act too hastily yet. The crowned skeleton goes on, saying he regrets the Gwain's death, but it doesn't matter. They can create endless amounts of magic stones and enhancement stones. Once their harvest is complete, they'll leave behind what they don't need and focus entirely on. But then one of his companions interrupts. The crowned skeleton waves it off, telling him to calm down. It's probably just weak humans like before. Besides, he adds, the roof is about to close, so wasting time on them. Back with our boy and his friend, they finally cross the massive wall and enter the inner zone. But the driver guy looks uneasy as he can't find a safe landing spot. He mentions that right below them, a skeleton knight is battling another monster. Our boy looks down too, and what he sees stuns him. The one fighting the skeleton knight isn't a monster at all. It's his elder sister Soul. She sends the skeleton knight back with a powerful punch, yet it still does no. Our hero begins narrating the story of this second monster. As a child, she stumbles across mixed martial arts on TV and instantly falls in love with it. Luckily, she has a little brother who supports her obsession, or more accurately, serves as her. Whenever she watches a fight, she tests the moves on him. But beating up her younger brother and other weak opponents isn't enough. She craves stronger challenges. She goes to the playground and fights anyone who dares to face her, boys, girls, even kids 3 years older. Nobody can stop her. That's where she tastes her first defeat. Another fighter beats her easily, but instead of feeling crushed, she feels alive. For the first time, she has found a worthy challenge. By 7th grade, she dominates the junior division. She pushes herself relentlessly, chasing perfection. But her drive comes at a price. Soul suffers major injuries, tearing ligaments in both legs. The cycle repeats. Injury, recovery, relapse. She could have started much earlier, if not for her stubbornness. Hearing this, the driver guy is stunned. Our boy just tells him not to worry and suggests they land the helicopter carefully. But he still mutters under his breath, saying she looks more like a monster than a human. Meanwhile, on the ground, the skeleton knight steps toward her with his sword in hand and asks why his. She mocks him, saying that his attacks are too slow. The knight insists he's just as fast as her and accuses her of using some secret technique. She explains that it isn't any technique, she can just read the stance of her opponent and the positioning of all their limbs. Her answer leaves the knight thinking as he realizes that he learns something new. He says fighters like her are rare, and if she raises her rank, she could become the greatest knight of all. But she frowns in confusion as she has no idea what he means by knights or rankings. The knight goes on, saying he admires her. But before he can finish, a flaming bowling ball suddenly smashes into him and breaks him down into pieces. The fiery bowling ball rolls to a stop at the sister's feet. She stares at it in shock, wondering how this strange weapon managed to destroy the knight when even her. From the knight's remains, 2 large mana stones and an enhancement stone appear. But before she can touch them, they get sucked into a glowing portal. At the same time, a helicopter hovers overhead, slowly descending toward her. Our boy steps out with a smirk, greeting her in a playful tone. He teases her, noting that nothing has changed, and she is still as fierce as ever. Soul is shocked to see her little brother and can't believe her eyes. Kim and his eldest sister sit quietly, watching in amazement as she devours everything with ferocity. Unable to hold back her curiosity, the nurse sister finally asks if she uses some kind of. She answers casually between bites, saying that she is half right and half wrong. Her strength, she explains, is natural, and has nothing to do with the barrier. The girl keeps eating with such intensity that her sister eventually snaps, scolding her to slow down. Our hero only laughs and tells her that she was the same when she first came here. He admits how relieved he is that all 3 of them awaken survival abilities and manage to endure so far. Yet he reminds them that one task remains, finding their eldest brother. At this, sister number 2 slows just enough to glance at him skeptically. She points out that his ability feels like a cheat code and questions how he can possibly do. He chuckles and brushes it off, saying it is a long story he will explain later. He even shows her how to use the eye packs to order anything she needs and mentions that she should also. She agrees with a nod but quickly raises the question of whether they are truly leaving the city right away. He rises from his chair with a grave expression, confirming that they must. The ceiling is closing at a dangerous pace and he is not sure if the fortress can protect the entire city. On top of that, he still needs to gather as many mana stones as possible. Looking up, he feels dread sink into his chest as the ceiling has already closed, plunging. Without hesitation, he boards the Black Hawk, takes off, and launches 5 blazing fireballs at the. The attacks do 0 damage to the walls and he knows that the roof is not opening anytime soon. He wonders if he should risk storing the entire city inside his subspace, but the idea. Moving such a massive structure could bring unpredictable and catastrophic consequences. Worse still, he has already drained his remaining mana stones just to expand the portal's radius. From behind, he hears his sister mumbling. She recalls her encounter with a skeleton knight, wondering if he was telling the truth. Before his death, he told her that if she stayed in the city, she would die and offer to spare her life. Curious, Kim presses her for more, but she shrugs. Before he smashed him into pieces, hearing this, our boy realizes the hard truth. If they truly want to escape, he will have to confront the Skeleton King himself. The real challenge is figuring out where to find the Skeleton King in such a massive city. Before the hero can plan anything, the demon inside Youngsu awakens. With a wicked grin, he boasts that he only needs 5 minutes to locate the Skeleton King's castle. The hero senses the chaos about to unfold and tries to stop him, but it's already too late. The guy transforms into his demon form, laughing like a maniac. He flips the helicopter into a wild 360-degree spin and begins zigzagging through the skies. Meanwhile, in the Skeleton King's castle, Lancelot delivers grim news. He reports that the skeleton knight Lionel has been obliterated in a single strike by the. Enraged, the Skeleton King roars that the harvest is nearly complete, yet once again this intruder has. His fury surges as he swears he will kill the hero personally. When he demands the intruder's location, the skeleton head calmly assures him there is no need to. The Skeleton King lets out a chilling laugh. At first, he mistakes the hero for some kind of wizard, but after taking a closer look, he mutters that this. However, that doesn't matter now since his only focus is destruction. Whoever dares to challenge him wizard, undead or something else will not leave alive. Meanwhile, a massive door creaks open inside the castle. Bat-like creatures cling to the walls, waiting to ambush any intruder. The hero stumbles into the chamber, pale and weak, still reeling from motion sickness. He mutters to himself that he will never step onto a helicopter again. Before he can recover, his sister notices movement behind him and bolts forward. A massive bat monster lunges at his neck with razor-sharp teeth. At the last moment, she strikes with devastating force, killing it in one blow. The impact snaps our boy of his dizziness, and though he quickly thanks her, she brushes it off and scans the room. Something feels wrong. At first, he sees nothing, but then countless red eyes begin to glow from the shadows. His heart sinks as he realizes how many enemies surround them. Urgently, he tells the driver guy to retreat into the subspace, knowing this battle is too much for him alone. But his sister is another story. A wicked grin spreads across her face as the swarm of monsters advances. One monster would have been too boring, an army is far more exciting. With wild delight, she charges straight into the dark corridor. She leaps high, lands with crushing force, and smashes a monster's skull. When one of the creatures sinks its teeth into her neck, she doesn't even flinch. Instead, she grabs its head and slams it into the ground so hard that it shatters instantly. The floor is soon drenched in blood, and her laughter echoes through the chamber, unhinged. The remaining monsters falter, trembling in fear at her overwhelming ferocity. Our boy watches from the sidelines, torn between admiration and concern. He knows his sister thrives in battles like this, but he still wants to help her. Retreating into his subspace, he begins constructing a strange device, an electric pest repellent designed to draw the. When the machine powers up, it emits a strong current that pulls the monsters closer. One by one, they are caught and electrocuted to their deaths. The sister glares at the device and makes it clear she finds it boring since she wants to fight. She shouts at him warning not to interfere, but he reminds her that this isn't a boxing match, and they need to take. Outside the chamber, a skeleton head reports to the Skeleton King that the A second fighter there matches the enemy's strength, and the wizard is using strange tools and seemingly. The Skeleton King grows irritated since defeating one wizard was bad enough, but facing it, he decides that it's time to summon the Skeleton Knight Lancelot with his full power. The Skeleton Knight warns that having a rank 7 in the Earth's dimension might draw the Chamber of Commerce's wrath, but the Skeleton King, the wizard, appears to be at least 8th tier, the same rank as the king, and he decides to summon Lancelot's full power. Chanting an old incantation, the king replaces the projection of his skull with 3 reinforcements. Meanwhile, inside the hero's subspace, the group is busy building a new weapon. Electric appliances and tangled copper wires lie everywhere as they wrap thick wire around an aluminum. When swings the bat to get used to it and mentions that it almost seems like a cheat code to have this much stuff at his disposal. However, it's still semi-rare, so it's going to be effective. During all of this, he notices his sister continuously scratching her neck. She reveals that she got bit on the neck by one of the monsters. Our boy hears this and feels uneasy, wondering if that change could somehow make her into something like a vampire. He even asks if she feels any urges to bite his neck, and she just wants to beat the crap out of him and nothing else. Suddenly, they hear the Skeleton King's voice as he mocks the hero's reckless behavior and condemns anyone from the arcane. He vows to fight and kill the interloper. The king gives him one last chance to give a proper answer, but they both genuinely have no idea what he is talking about. Enraged, the Skeleton King commands Lancelot to attack at once, ordering him to. The reborn Skeleton Knight finally emerges from the summoning with newfound aura. Soul's eyes light up with excitement at the sight of him. After dealing with countless weak monsters, she finally has a worthy opponent. She warns our boy once more not to interfere, insisting the fight belongs to her. Before she can strike, Lancelot moves first. She reacts fast, dodging the deadly strike and blocking with her electrified bat. Realizing the danger, she pulls back just in time, but not fast enough. With one devastating swing, he shatters her electric bat in two. Our boy watches this in shock, wondering how a semi-rare weapon can break so easily. His sister tells him that it's not the bat that was weak, but it's their opponent who is strong. Across the room, the Skeleton King watches proudly, boasting about his most powerful knight. Our boy, however, reflects on his sister's rare admission. For her to acknowledge an enemy's strength means their opponent is truly on another level. He asks if he can take the Man of Stones after killing this guy since he is a bit short right now. His sister takes it as a challenge and the two race to be the ones to kill the knight. Our boy starts first with his bowling balls, but the knight cuts them all with his sword. Then Saul moves in from the front. At the same time, the hero blasts him with more bowling balls. However, when the Skeleton Knight stands back up, he is still unscratched. Kim immediately pulls himself and his sister into the subspace. Meanwhile, the Skeleton King orders his soldier to go after them. The sister seems pissed as she thinks that he's preventing her from getting the Man of Stones. He explains that it's not about the Man of Stones, but the guy they are facing is pretty dangerous. Knowing their previous attack did nothing, she questions if there is something they can do to break him. Suddenly, the knight charges forward with his sword, only to be blocked by the. Our boy decides to try attacking at close range from inside his subspace, but that too doesn't work. The Skeleton King seems to be getting bored and calls him dishonorable for hiding behind. He refers to our boy as the mage and explains that the enemy he is facing is at 7th rank, and there is no way they will get sanctioned for this, but he was backed into a corner so he had no other option. It was either this or dying at the hands of the mage, so the Skeleton King decided to gamble at. However, he didn't expect such a disappointing performance from him. As the fight goes on, he notices that the bowling balls keep piling up outside. This makes him wonder how many items does the mage have. He also questions why isn't he using any magic, since it would be more effective than simply using his. Meanwhile, our boy is still thinking about how to defeat this skeleton knight. He doesn't really have enough mana stones to upgrade anything, so he has to kill him with what he has on hand. The only problem is that what he has doesn't work on this guy. Before the fight can go on, the Skeleton King intervenes and mentions that our boy isn't a mage, but a. He starts laughing almost like it's a relief to him. My man is just a mage hater. The king even orders his knight to withdraw and claims that they can work as potential partners. Understandably, both our boy and his sister are confused. The king explains that his entire castle is basically an item called Camelot that can produce enchantment stones in exchange of living things. These stones also have a special effect when used on certain items. For example, when used on Camelot, it allows the owner to summon and command all of the 12 knights. Since he has the ability to duplicate items, the two of them can work together. It might take some time for the castle to create stones, but once they get their hands on the first stone, hearing all this, our boy sheds some tears of happiness and thanks the guy for his idea. In the next moment, he orders Pax to store the entire castle inside his subspace. Before the Skeleton King can say anything, he is standing in the middle of the road, broken, homeless. Inside the subspace, the castle turns back into its original form and, seeing it in the hands of the hero, the king loses it and attacks him with some whack. Meanwhile, our boy keeps a straight face and orders Lancelot, who is now under his. The knight quickly obeys and slashes the king in half using his sword. After being destroyed, the king disintegrates completely, leaving behind a small yellow crystal this time. The skeleton knight kneels and picks it up carefully. It announces that the Skeleton King's entire territory now belongs to him, along with every. When he checks the total, his eyes widen as there are 3,086 mana stones. He feels a rush of excitement, but it doesn't last. His sister crosses her arms and insists on taking half. He admits she did save him, but he doesn't think that means she deserves half. Our boy points out that he also spent his own mana stones crafting her electric bat. After a short back and forth, he sighs and reluctantly offers her 500 stones instead. Saul looks unimpressed and asks if he really values her life less than a pile of mana stones. Our boy counters that she's safe inside his subspace anyway, so she doesn't need them. Finally, she accepts the 500 mana stones and then points toward Lancelot, asking what they should do about him. The skeleton knight steps forward and bows to the hero. He respectfully reports that the Skeleton King has been defeated, presenting the mana stone as proof. Moments later, we see Yang Tsu's daughter playing with the knight as if he was her. Our boy watches quietly, thinking that the little girl must have been bored living here. The knight bows politely, saying that serving the hero's allies brings him as much honor as serving him himself. Jissa giggles as she taps his helmet while her parents apologize for her playfulness, worried. The older sister smiles softly, noticing how Lancelot stays calm and protective, watching every move the little girl makes. Despite his fearsome power, the knight's gentleness stands out. Then she changes the topic, asking our boy if their next stop is the Dobong. He nods and explains that his older brother lives there, so that's their next destination. The sister, however, looks worried. She advises him to rest first, pointing out that he's been using his powers non-stop. If he keeps pushing himself, he might collapse before they even arrive. She suggests they wait until morning before continuing the journey. He takes her words seriously and glances toward Yu Young's family. They're laughing and playing together, with Jissa's father promising to become a knight himself someday. The scene makes him smile softly, realizing how rare and precious these calm moments have become. He decides it's time to rest and finally get some proper sleep. The driver guy agrees and takes his daughter to sleep, telling him that they will at 6 in the morning. Our boy turns to his new skeleton soldier and says it's time to make a proper base for. He takes out Camelot, his magical construct, and examines it carefully. The system reveals that Camelot can grow or shrink depending on how many mana stones are used. He studies the options and focuses on what matters most. He notes that Camelot absorbs all the mana it's given and expands in size, but the system doesn't. After a quick calculation, he decides to test it by using 300. Enough, he hopes, for 12 people to live comfortably. As soon as he feeds the stones into Camelot, the structure begins to glow brightly. Within moments, it grows into a grand fortress, not quite the size of a city, but large enough. Satisfied, he nods, thinking that it's more than enough space for now. The sister is shocked at the size and wonders how many mana stones the Skeleton King must have put into. The Skeleton Knight admits that he doesn't know the true number, but it's probably tens of thousands. Our boy realizes that the reason he didn't experience any side effects after putting his massive castle into his subspace. Once everything makes sense, he turns to his sister and asks if she plans to rest. She shakes her head, saying she actually has a request for the night. She turns to the Skeleton Knight and asks if he can teach her his sword techniques. Our boy is a little surprised by her sudden request. Hearing this, she smirks and warns him that her training isn't easy. Her brother can't help smiling, knowing how excited she gets when it comes to martial arts. While the two of them start sparring, our boy quietly slips away to rest, feeling relieved that someone has. By morning, soldiers have gathered outside the portal since the barrier has vanished. They're busy coordinating and reporting back to their bases. From inside the subspace, our hero and the driver guy watch the scene unfold. The driver remarks that they weren't the only ones waiting for morning to get moving, but the hero. Moments later, a helicopter appears in the sky and lands right in front of the portal. Both of them stare in surprise as the door opens and a man steps out. It's the commander. Our boy nods in acknowledgement, remarking that they've met sooner than expected. The commander explains that as soon as he learned the city's barrier had vanished, he began. He says he scoured the entire city until he finally found them. The hero, a little tense, asks if the commander came to pressure them into rejoining the force. Instead, he's there to deliver urgent news that traveling by helicopter would be a terrible idea. The First Corps has taken full control of the Air Defense Command, and anything flying through the sky is. This shocks the hero and the driver guy. The commander then goes into detail about the chaos that has unfolded. After leaving their city, their unit started investigating the First Corps to track their movements, and they found out that they sent drones in these areas to get an estimate about their numbers, but they all capped. This means that the First Corps has a strong air defense preventing them from moving in. This is why he came here to warn him since he heard he was moving to that region. He advises taking a longer route through Namyeongju instead, but they don't really have much intel on. The hero sincerely thanks him, admitting that they had indeed planned to fly by helicopter, but now they'll. The commander smiles with relief, glad to have arrived in time to prevent disaster. His plan is to reach Wajungbu to his parents while stopping by his brother's place in Dabong. This detour means that he won't be able to visit his brother. He understands that the biggest threat now isn't the monsters. It's the rebels. They're far more dangerous and unpredictable. His family, his brother, sister-in-law and parents are all trapped between two dangers. Monsters on one side and rebel forces on the other. Our boy knows that unless the rebellion is crushed, nothing else will ever stabilize. He decides that sooner or later, he'll have to face the first unit head-on. He calls out to Lancelot and turns to the commander confirming that he's the one who defeated the Skeleton King with the... The commander starts to shiver as he stares at the massive knight, but Hero reassures him that there's no need for fear. He explains that his brother's home lies in Dabong, so a conflict with the rebels is unavoidable. Instead of taking another route, he suggests using this knight and planning on destroying. The commander's expression shifts from shock to excitement as he immediately agrees to his suggestion. Meanwhile, far away at the rebels' base, goblin-like soldiers stand guard. One holds an anti-aircraft weapon while another watches over a cage filled with captured humans. It becomes clear that the so-called soldiers of the first unit aren't humans at all, they're goblins. From a distance, a specter summoned by our boy observes everything. He watches the goblin camp carefully, counting their numbers, memorizing patrol routes, and noting. His eyes narrow when he spots two figures, one of them a high-ranking officer with. They appear to be discussing something important, though the skeleton head can't make out the words. This is one of the 12 skeleton knights in spectral form summoned using Semalot. In spirit form, they lack a physical body, making them immune to normal attacks and able to pass through walls or travel unseen. Summoning this form requires 1 enchantment stone and 500 mana stones, the same amount. Once summoned, the knight can switch between forms without any additional mana stones. Lancelot's spirit form turns out to be the perfect choice as our boy can scout the enemy. His mission is to map the rebel camp, count troops, locate anti-air guns, find special units. After 2.5 hours of careful reconnaissance, the Spectre returns and reports everything he found. When he finishes his debrief, our boy listens in shock. The scout confirms that some soldiers have bodies mutated into goblins and that the camp keeps rough. Lancelot adds that the guards mention someone important, a figure whose arrival will change everything, and he also counted 9 anti-air installations. That level of security explains why no intelligence was leaking from the zone. Our boy thinks it through, mentions that the soldiers must have joined the rebel forces willingly. What puzzles him most is the purpose behind imprisoning civilians and who exactly is figure they keep mentioning. Lancelot explains that ranks can be raised by sacrificial rituals. Sacrificing life force from lower beings can shortcut the path to higher power. He suspects the camp is gathering people to make pacts with low-rank entities and then harvests the resulting power to. In other words, they're trying to raise their rank by sacrificing people. The Skeleton Knight mentions that it's a sort of loophole for lower-ranked beings and they might be in some kind of deal with a. Whatever the case, the sister wants to attack immediately, insisting they should wipe the place out. The situation is far more complex. The Skeleton Knight's report is invaluable, but the defenders are heavily fortified, and if the rebels call in the first unit has unknown weapons and capabilities. If they intervene, the attackers will face overwhelming retaliation. Despite the danger, the hero knows inaction isn't an option. Reinforcements will come to the enemy if they wait, and his brother's safety is a ticking clock. Delaying to coordinate with other units would take too long. The decision is hard, but he knows they need to move to seize the zone as soon as possible. Seeing his master's hesitation, Lancelot suggests that summoning another knight could solve their. The hero shakes his head, arguing that summoning a knight isn't easy since it requires enchant stones too. Currently, he does not have a single enhancement stone left. He even considers unsummoning him to retrieve his stone and then bringing him back again. But he knows that would be pointless. Sighing, he admits he can't duplicate enhancement or mana stones anyway, so there's no simple solution. Lancelot then reminds him of something he'd completely forgotten. After defeating the Skeleton King, he had actually obtained an enchantment stone. He doesn't remember receiving it at all. When the Skeleton Knight explains that he had handed it to him after the battle, Kim realizes with embarrassment. Regaining focus, he asks which knight would be best to summon. Lancelot assures him that all 12 knights of Camelot are strong and loyal, but in this situation, this knight is not just an archer but also a true genius of long-range combat. This puts a smile on the hero's face and he immediately agrees to it. Meanwhile, at the enemy camp, human prisoners sit trapped inside iron cages. Most of them are weak and dying, but one girl still looks relatively healthy. A goblin guard approaches her and calls out, singling her out because of her appearance. He promises her freedom if she does him a favor, his leering tone making his. The girl stares at him in disgust, but before she can respond, his head is sliced clean off in an instant. The attack came from Lancelot, and after helping the girl, he disappears as. Just moments later, a flaming bowling ball floats above the camp. The goblins below glance up in confusion, trying to understand what they're seeing. One of them shouts in panic when he realizes what it is. The bowling ball suddenly shoots forward, crashing straight into an anti-aircraft gun. The explosion tears through the area, setting off a chain reaction that destroys. As the smoke clears, another bowling ball launches from a sling-like contraption aimed at the knight behind the weapon is none other than our archer, Bedaver, who fights with incredible precision. Despite missing an arm, he moves with perfect control, already surrounded by fallen goblins. Earlier, Lancelot had explained his story revealing that he only had one arm. He was a genius archer serving a duke, but jealousy led to betrayal, and his arm. Instead of giving up, he devoted himself to training his remaining arm, mastering throwing and shooting techniques until our boy could hardly believe that a one-armed archer could destroy anti-aircraft guns from such a long distance, but back in the battle, another explosion shakes the ground as the archer's next shot. From a nearby hill, goblin soldiers shout an alarm, trying to understand what's happening. Before they can react, the skeleton appears among them like a shadow of death. Meanwhile, our boy continues collecting mana stones automatically whenever the knights. Since he has the dimensional account, he doesn't need to be there in person, and the mana stones. More and more mana stones roll in, and he wonders if he's somehow cheating fate too. At the same time, the driver guy points out a flare-like signal exploding in the air. The hero explains that this is the marker he told Lancelot to release once the cannons were. His friend is impressed with how quickly the skeleton knight completed the task. The commander watches both knights work and admits that with warriors like these, a special forces unit isn't. He orders the group to move out. My man can't remember where the skeleton knight ordered him to go next. Confused, he decides to go with his gut and starts walking. At the same time, the skeleton knight is busy beating up a goblin to get answers. He pins the goblin and presses for details about their plan and the mastermind behind it all. Under pressure, the goblin coughs up a name, Toneshu, who is supposedly so strong that even 8 ranchers. The skeleton knight can't recall ever hearing about such an entity and pushes for more answers. However, the goblin somehow breaks free and jumps out of the window. The other soldiers panic as they witness their commander running for his life. The skeleton knight arrives seconds later and tells them running will not save the fugitive. The soldiers form a ring to protect their leader and insist on getting the commander to safety, shouting that reinforcements could. He mocks their loyalty to such a useless commander. While trash-talking, one of the goblins reveals that they can grow their rank by devouring humans. Before the goblin can say more, the knight cuts him down. The commander's support collapses quickly. Most of his men fall under the knight's blade, and the sight terrifies the remaining goblins. From above, a helicopter appears carrying our boy and his friend. The goblin commander is stunned as he thinks that this is a government-operated. With no options left, he sacrifices his own soldiers and starts eating them to increase his rank. Our boy watches as the goblin becomes an 8-rank monster by consuming mana crystals. The knight explains that this goblin chose to take a shortcut just to get to the 8th rank. He doesn't even want to bother with this and leaves it to the archer. From above, the archer skeleton shoots down one of the flaming bowling balls and kills the goblin in a single blow. At that instant, our boy receives 322 mana stones, pushing his total. The operations chief arrives, reports that with the 2 knights' help they destroyed the main threats, and that a soldier asks about the goblin commander's fate, but before anyone can answer, our hero asks the skeleton knight whether he learned the enemy's plan during interrogation. The knight apologizes, admitting that he wasn't able to get much information, only the name of the entity. He then asks for the building where the commander was staying in hopes of finding some secret documents. Lancelot points out the commander's quarters on the 4th floor, and the team prepares to Judging from the Skeleton Knight's information, our boy estimates it will take a long time to collect everything. Therefore, he asks Pax to store all maps and documents under the military category. The system quickly calculates the amount. He authorizes it, telling the chief that his system will handle the data since they need the information. Then, a system alert appears. 2 of the documents cannot be categorized as military. One paper is titled, Dimension Being Application Form, which Lancelot explains is used to. The other document is about the loophole method to attain a higher rank. Our boy is shocked to learn that the rebels still chose to go with the loophole despite having this application form. The Skeleton Knight assumes the rebels didn't meet the requirements for official registration. The documents clearly show that becoming a dimension being requires both mana stones and a dimension account. He reminds the hero that he is one of the rare individuals who already fulfilled the requirements after defeating an 8th rank. By signing the official form, he can safely ascend without turning into a goblin. He also explains that genuine forms automatically translate into the user's own language. Our boy looks at the registration form again and notices that it requires 1,000. Without hesitation, he signs it. Surprised by how simple it is, he asks if that's all. Moments later, a goblin soldier arrives on a motorcycle with some news for his commander. Meanwhile, the archer skeleton watches him from the top of a building and wonders if he is riding some kind of a horse. After searching through the goblin commander's office, they found more than 40,000 military documents. Our boy didn't have time to review them all since he wanted to return to his family, so he left it all to the chief. Since the city is taken over by the rebel forces, it won't be possible to travel there using. However, when he opens his subspace inventory, every vehicle stored inside is military. Frustrated, he settles for an electric bicycle, hoping to find something better along the way. As they walk outside, they spot the archer skeleton sitting on a motorbike. Our boy looks at him in shock and asks where he got the bike. The skeleton casually points to a dead goblin nearby and explains that he took it from him because it looked interesting. The hero realizes this must be the enemy commander's bike, which is considered a military vehicle. He quickly stores it in his subspace using 22 Munstones, so he can. Meanwhile, in another goblin outpost, 2 guards hear an engine approaching. They grow suspicious and decide to wait until it gets closer to identify whether it's. But before they can react, our boy launches his flaming ball, instantly killing one guard. The other barely has time to turn before Lancelot appears and decapitates him in a flash. They continue onward through the ruined streets. From a rooftop, a goblin spots the motorcycle and grows suspicious, knowing no such vehicle should be in. He keeps watch as our boy and his skeletons speed away. Finally, he reaches the neighborhood where his brother and sister-in-law once lived. He rushes to the door and knocks repeatedly, calling out for his brother. There's no reply. Anxiety builds inside him as he keeps shouting with no answer. With trembling hands, he unlocks the door and steps inside, only to find it empty. With the Skeleton Knight in the lead, they search through the house on any clues. Our boy looks around and notices that the place doesn't look attacked, just hurriedly abandoned. Then he notices a letter left on the table. In the note, his brother writes that he, along with his wife, is leaving for their father's workshop in Wajongbu. The phones don't work, and soldiers have started kidnapping civilians. Still, they're unharmed for now and hope he and his sister survive too. After reading the letter, our boy exhales in relief, thinking at least his family. He hands the letter to the archer and asks him to give it to his sister. As he opens his subspace, he realizes his brother must have written the letter before the first. Still, the situation in Wajongbu is worsening fast, with the rebel forces taking control. He quickly turns to the Skeleton Knight and says they need to move quickly. Before they can leave, the sound of helicopter blades interrupts them. From behind a nearby building, a chopper rises, piloted by the same goblin who had seen the hero earlier. The goblin radios in, confirming the targets, and immediately opens fire. The bullets appear to hit their target head-on, but when the smoke fades, our boy. He mutters that he thought he was done for, then calmly instructs his system to store the system deducts 141 mana stones, and the helicopter disappears into subspace. The goblin pilot panics, shouting in disbelief that the man survived, but before he can, he falls screaming and crashes to his death. As they continue forward, he thinks about how they've cleared every goblin on their path and now have. Still, what matters most to him is his family's safety. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a group of goblins argues among themselves. Their commander complains that the high priest demands more human sacrifices, but they've failed to capture. After scolding one of the goblin soldiers for not meeting the quota, he turns his attention towards the commander orders him to destroy the building ahead. Just as the elite goblin starts moving, the loud roar of a motorcycle echoes through the area. The goblins turn and spot the hero approaching fast. Furious and nearing his home, our boy yells that the goblins have no right to come. Together with the skeleton knight, they cut through the goblins, and within moments, the ground is covered in. From a nearby building, Kim's dad peeks out through broken windows, watching his son with a shocked expression. When the other family members ask him what's going on, he tells them that their son is here on a motorcycle with a skeleton. Before this moment, his father's life had been ordinary. He once believed that good and bad only held meaning when shared with others. As a child, his mother used to remind him of that again and again, so much that he'd grown tired of hearing it. Yet as he grew older, he realized she had been right. Through every failure and betrayal he faced in business, it was the people who truly cared for him that helped. When his children began to grow up, he dreamed of building a large home where the whole family could live together peacefully. But after checking construction costs, he realized it was far beyond what he could afford. The dream slowly faded into the background of his busy life. Years passed, his eldest son married, his eldest daughter became a nurse, his younger daughter. Life was moving forward and everything seemed bright. The father owned a hardware store, which became their shelter. Using the tools and materials he had, he managed to keep his family safe during the first wave of attacks. But survival didn't come easy. Then one afternoon, his eldest sons-in-laws managed to find them, followed soon by his son and daughter-in-law. His daughter-in-law's special ability helped them survive a bit longer. She could produce water. But their relief didn't last. New monster-like soldiers appeared who were far more brutal than the other monsters. They tortured anyone they found, sparing no one, not men, women, or even children. Then one day, a notification appeared before him informing him that he had awakened an ability. His class was Architect, giving him the power to freely create and reinforce. He believed the ability had awakened from his long-buried dream of building a safe home for his family. With it, he strengthened their house, sealing the windows, fortifying the walls, and surrounding the property. Combined with his daughter-in-law's power, they managed to hold on, but the danger. Recently, he'd seen soldiers scouting near their home, and now they had returned, this time bringing a large. He knew they planned to destroy everything, so he instructed his son to take everyone through an underground passage. His wife protested in fear, but he smiled weakly, asking her to trust him. Just as he was about to lead them to safety, he suddenly stopped as something. His wife noticed his expression and asked if the situation was worse than before. This takes us back to our current situation. After getting rid of the goblins, our boy makes his way towards the house, along with his skeleton buddies. Before he can even call out, the front door opens and his dad locks eyes with him. He immediately starts crying and runs to his dad to hug him. However, he notices his family's expression shift from joy to alarm when they notice the skeleton standing. He quickly explains that the undead are his summons, loyal and harmless to humans. To ease their worry further, he gestures toward the glowing portal behind him, where his two sisters sit. When the sisters spot their family through the portal, they too burst into tears. After the emotional meetup, he puts his entire family into the subspace and they all have dinner together. His mother is astonished as she tastes the food. Not wanting to be outdone, the mom decides to make a dessert to match. She does her best to make a mom-style tiramisu with green grapes and whipped cream. Seeing this, the mom laughs proudly, pretending it was nothing special, but inside she feels. Meanwhile, in another corner of the house, an old man approaches Lancelot and asks if he knows how to play chess. Lancelot admits that he's played something similar, but not exactly the same. The old man grins and invites him to join, eager to teach him the real game. Nearby, our hero's brother hands him a small, glowing stone. It's an enchantment stone of grade D, carrying the powers of penetration and explosion. The brother explains how he found it during their journey when a griffin-like monster had. Afterward, he discovered the stone inside the rhino's body. He admits he can't use it well himself, but he believes he can make the most of it. As the brother leaves, our boy notices a scar on his face and wonders how much they might have suffered while. Just then, his dad walks in, just how proud he is. Thanks to his son's ability, they're in a secure place where food and safety are known. Our boy nods with a calm expression. He tells his father that he now understands something important. Good and bad only matter as long as people exist around them. When he first got his power, he never thought he'd be able to reunite with his family. But the more he used his strength to help others, the more he realized everyone shared the same wish to protect. No matter what powers they have, they're still human. If people stop helping one another, he wonders, what kind of hearts would they even have? His father smiles proudly, saying he couldn't be prouder of his son. Our boy thanks him sincerely, feeling grateful to have such a father. After saying goodnight, they both go to rest. The scene then shifts to a military base where officers are buried in piles of documents. After going through nearly half the stack, the operations commander tells. Suddenly, a soldier bursts in with urgent news. He reports that a skeleton knight just arrived on a motorcycle, claiming his. The commander looks shocked. After a brief pause, he screams in shock, realizing that our boy might be going there to take on the rebel army. Meanwhile, the sister is deep in her boxing practice. She punches so hard that the heavy sandbag tears apart and flies across the room. Annoyed, she yells for Pax to bring another one faster. But Pax calmly reminds her that they're moving exactly at their program speed. From the upper floor, her brother watches with the older sister. The sister explains that it's because our boy didn't let her go outside to fight. He said the outside world was too dangerous even with her powers. So instead, she asked their father to install a sandbag setup and has been venting. Then she changes the subject and asks him about the scar on his face. He touches his cheek, realizing that the wound has almost completely healed. Shocked, he mutters that maybe he's awakened some kind of power too. The sister just rolls her eyes, saying it was barely a scratch to begin with. But he insists it was a deep cut and that it couldn't have healed this fast. She scoffs and reminds him that when she was in the hospital once, she met a man who could control people's minds and, compared to that, her brother's little scar is nothing. Just then, their mother calls from the kitchen that dinner is ready. She dashes off immediately, eager to eat, and quickly informs everyone else. Elsewhere, the hero's grandfather sits in another room, deeply focused on a game. He feels both impressed and puzzled as he notices that Lancelot, who claims to have never played before. In the end, the grandfather loses the game and decides to ask the skeleton knight to. Meanwhile, the outside world turns into a war zone. Dozens of tanks advance, firing non-stop and causing massive explosions. A glowing portal appears ahead, launching a barrage of missiles. These are rare ranked weapons enhanced with penetration and explosive attributes. Each missile strikes a tank and destroys it instantly, wiping out the attacking forces within seconds. Watching this, the boy feels satisfied. He has avoided using heavy weaponry before to protect civilians, but the skeleton knight scout. Now he can unleash his full power. According to their plan, he will annihilate the enemy army while his skeleton knight rescues the hostages. He upgrades his Blackhawk helicopter with powerful weapons and combines enhancement stones with his. These enhanced missiles make collecting mana stones much easier. He realizes he needs 10,000 mana stones to upgrade his subspace to level 4. When he checks his resources, he is shocked to see only 1,190 mana stones, far fewer than expected. The system informs him that 45% of the total mana stones automatically go to someone named. The boy is stunned as he faintly remembers hearing these names before from the skeleton knight. At that moment, the skeleton knight returns after completing his mission. He reports that all enemy camps are destroyed and that his archer buddy is rescuing the remaining survivors. Our boy confirms he isn't injured, then asks him about this Tenashiogai and the skeleton knight explains that the Mexican dimension is likely his realm, similar to how Earth is called the. He adds that the high priest Bongsu is probably one of the traitors sacrificing people to. Meanwhile, system notices keep appearing on high priest's screen, each one showing fees taken from large. Bong frowns, uneasy about the flood of messages and wondering whose account is generating so many. He can hear explosions outside, but none of his soldiers came to report anything, so he doesn't know what is going on. Before he can sort it out, a missile rips through him and he falls to the ground. Our boy arrives soon after, exhausted from climbing stairs. He finds his body with a huge hole in the chest, but then notices a red mist gathering. The skeleton knight identifies the effect and mentions that the priest is regenerating. After a moment, the guy rises fully recovered, smirking at the sight of our boy. The hero tells him that he is also pretty shocked since he didn't think goblins could talk. The priest explains coldly that those goblin soldiers used to be human, transformed by greed for mana stones. He claims he warned them against that fate. He talks about settling things peacefully, suggesting they step back because he can kill them anytime he wants. However, he doesn't want to waste any time. Hearing this, the skeleton knight puts him in place, claiming that he won't be able to put a. Meanwhile, our boy is trying to figure out that red smoke. Suddenly, a terrifying eye appears above them from the smoke, and our boy. Seeing him so shocked, the priest, if this is his first time seeing a high-ranked being. Due to the ranking restrictions, most high-ranked beings don't get involved in these affairs even when they are. However, Tanatu is different, as he will literally descend upon the world when he calls him. The priest offers them another chance at forgiveness, but before he can continue talking, the skeleton. Despite being severed, his head floats back and reattaches as the red energy pulses. The priest laughs, claiming that he can keep regenerating no matter how many times they kill him. The knight refuses to surrender and mentions that he is only loyal to his master. Hearing this, the priest charges towards him to attack since he is confident in his regeneration ability. Instead of using his sword, Lancelot decides to fight with his fists even if he can't kill the guy. The priest heals continually between the blows, laughing that he cannot die, but the knight refuses. Our boy watches him beat the crap out of the priest, but he knows that defeating him is a different challenge. His endless regeneration comes from Tonesho, and if he doesn't act quickly, nothing. He thinks hard, trying to find a way to stop him from healing. Then he remembers how putting the big guy into his subspace removed the effect of the poison. Maybe doing the same to the priest will stop him. The knight doesn't hesitate and hurls him straight into the portal. A system notification pops up asking for permission to allow him into subspace, and he quickly approves. Inside Subspace, the older sister walks with her snacks when she notices the portal. At first, she thinks it's her brother, but when she sees the old guy, she starts. The other sister arrives at the same time and grabs the priest by his head as she mistook him for her brother. Our boy watches her from outside the portal as she charges at him, but he acts fast, closing. The priest's body is immediately unregistered and expelled from Subspace. The sister stands there with a demonic look on her face, warning him that she will deal with. Bro is more scared of her than Tanisha. After the priest dies, the Dimension account ownership is transferred, and all. Our boy checks the total and sees 14,023 mana stones. He is shocked since the priest managed to collect this much just from commissions alone. He didn't get any notification about paying commission to Tanisha, so he looks up to check only. The Skeleton Knight explains that the High Priest was the only one who could summon the entity here, and now that his connection, he doubts the entity will attempt to return. The tension and near-death experience have left him drained, even though he barely fought himself. Just then, a voice calls out, and he turns to see reinforcements arriving. When asked about the first unit's commander, our boy points to High Priest's shriveled. Through their radios, other units report that all goblins in the area are dead, including zombies. No enemies survived, though the cause remains unclear. The commander orders his team to stay alert, continue reporting, rescue any civilians, and clear. Turning back to the hero, he praises him, acknowledging that he handled the entire situation perfectly. Our boy laughs awkwardly, admitting that even he doesn't fully understand why all the commander apologizes for trying to recruit him into the military earlier. He admits he underestimated his abilities, realizing now that his true power. Still, he makes a request and asks him to help the survivors. Many are injured, shocked, or haven't awakened yet, and the damage is far worse than. He acknowledges that the government and military mishandled the situation and asks him to assist. Our boy agrees but clarifies that he's not making any deal. He firmly states that he will never join the military under their orders, and any future help he offers will be. The commander smiles and extends his hand. He then pulls out his walkie-talkie and announces that the hero is being granted the honorary rank of colonel for his extraordinary. All military personnel are ordered to show proper respect and cooperate fully with him. He tries to stop him, embarrassed, insisting he isn't a soldier. The commander mentions that he can ignore him if he wants and leaves to help with the rescue. Our boy starts blushing for some reason and mutters to himself about how embarrassed he is. After the commander leaves, he praises the knight for his efforts and suggests they go rest. The knight thanks him but asks about his archer buddy. The hero remembers and tries to retrieve him using the item retrieval function, but it fails because he realizes the system only works at close distance, so he decides they'll go find him together. At the same time, he uses 10,000 mana stones to upgrade his subspace to level 4. The scene shifts to the archer, who is inside the High Priest's office, rifling through. He's pleased with what he finds and thinks his master will be happy too. Until now, he has found 3 application forms to register as a dimensional being. Our boy arrives and sees the documents, realizing they are forms for registering. He thanks the archer, knowing these papers might help calm his demonic sister. As he opens the portal, his sister waits on the other side with a dangerous grin. The older sister egging her on only makes her more threatening. Before she attacks, he quickly hands her the documents, instructing her to read them first, hoping. She flips through the papers and realizes they are dimensional registration forms. Our boy admits he didn't want to stop her from fighting, but he worried the outside world is too dangerous. He also confesses he enjoys watching her fight and didn't just trap here for the laughs. The sister barely pays attention to his praise and keeps reading, and for a moment he relaxes, thinking the. Suddenly she frowns as she realizes that in order to register, she needs a. Our boy quickly thinks of an excuse, but before he can finish, she punches him so hard he spins and falls. Due to the new Subspace upgrade, the healing effect is strong enough so he doesn't really. The older sister watches the chaos and wonders aloud if her brother will survive being in. The knights, however, start trembling oddly. When Juyeon cries out, he looks and sees both knights dropping to their knees. The sister asks if they're all right. The skeleton knight says his body itches and feels wrong, getting worse by the second. The nurse sister thinks it might be some kind of side effect of healing. Our boy puts the pieces together and realizes that the Subspace's new life support is pumping healing energy into the area. The system is trying to heal and stabilize, but for undead physiology that causes. With a trembling voice, Lancelot mentions that they felt better when they were inside the fortress. Hearing this, they decide to move inside Camelot. As the healing effect is reversed, the item generates a white enchantment stone with no. There is another blue stone, which he never saw get made. He wonders how enchantment stones are being produced automatically without obvious. Turns out that the Subspace life support system is healing the knights, while the blood right ability of the item is using that life. In other words, our boy has found the infinite enchantment stone glitch. Still, even with all this, he isn't sure if he can take on someone like that higher level entity from earlier. He decides to focus on his own abilities for now. The scene cuts to the military base, where officers review captured documents. They report that the rebel forces used the national flag to lure in citizens and use them as sacrifices. However, the hero took care of everything, so they don't have to worry about it now. As the commander looks at the rising sun above the mountains, he realizes that it's. Suddenly, a system notification appears, not just for him, but for. It announces that the Interdimensional Chamber of Commerce has been monitoring Earth during its exploration phase. They report that 13,117 people have received special abilities, though 17 cases were reported of. Despite that, Earth shows great growth potential and value for future. Another notification follows, declaring the exploration period over. Earth is now classified as Grade BB, and the next phase begins soon. In 7 days, a bidding competition will start, where representatives from different regions of Earth. The outcome will determine rewards. If an opposing dimension wins, a portal opens for further exploration. If Earth's representative wins, they gain a separate prize. Seeing all this, our boy claims that it's basically a declaration of war. His family wonders if this is some kind of prank, but he knows it's real since the dimensional red. His mother erupts in anger and rants furiously, demanding who gave them the right to invade Or. Both siblings smile nervously as they witness her anger. Our boy admits he isn't fully sure what's happening either. Still, judging by the rules and bidding system, it seems Earth is now linked to. Then a new message appears, addressed only to him. The chamber congratulates him for achieving the highest profit in his region during the exploration period. If he refuses, the position automatically goes to the second highest earner. The older sister is surprised the message came only to him, and his brother points out that this officially makes him. He adds that it seems the competition will involve alien forces and humans from Earth. Finally, another notification appears, explaining that if the hero accepts, he can select. After accepting, he visits the commander, who looks very pleased. Our boy explains that he can select 100 team members to fight against the alien forces who. He has already added his family in the Knights and asks the army to provide the remaining 80. The commander relaxes, relieved that he is the one leading them against this. He even hands him a small notebook containing the names of awakened soldiers, offering him the choice of anyone. He politely declines, saying he only needs the best marksman. The commander is surprised. Kim assures him that he has received detailed intelligence about the aliens and apparently, they worship a goddess named Emeth, and specialize in using. He opens up the system message showing the goddess and her army. Her warriors shout prayers for her eternal life, and the destruction of all humans, calling them barbarians. Another notification lists the participants from the Amethyst dimension, revealing that our boy knows that their enemies are strong, but he still doesn't understand the format of this battle. According to the details he received, 1 hour before the battle, both sides gather in the same area, the Amethyst dimension team will bring a gate core, which hatches automatically. For Earth to win, they must destroy it before then. However, the enemy won't just sit around and defend the gate. They will also act defensively, considering most of his team is 9th ranked, this means that they will have to defend against their attacks while trying to reach the gate core at the same time. He picks himself, the Skeleton Knight, and his sister for attacks. However, they are lacking in defense since all of their enemy fighters are 8th ranks. The commander points out that their long-range weapons won't even harm the 8th rank enemies because their equipment. Hearing this, our boy tells him not to worry since he upgraded his abilities last night. While he didn't gain new skills, his existing ones evolved, allowing him to launch multiple items at once, and his Subspace lab now includes a simulation system for building and testing weapons before crafting them. He spends hours experimenting, creating weapons that are lightweight, usable by non-ability users, and powerful. After many hours of testing and tweaking, he finally makes a gun that meets his. At first, he tries enchanting just the ammo, but the guns break after a single shot because the frames are too weak. He experiments with different materials until he realizes the frame must be reinforced with. Once he fits them, the gun's durability improves and it can fire 3 shots in a. Our boy brings everyone together and explains the plan. He says the rifle only lasts for 3 shots, but they will stockpile many of them and swap guns as needed. These will help them defend while another group targets the gate core. The commander admires the modified weapon and quickly assembles a list of elite snipers. The elite snipers get a week to train with their new weapons. He brings a map and they prepare a castle layout for the contest. The squad in charge of offense also upgrades their power using mana stones. His sister is now able to use her body shield to protect other people too. The older sister's skill upgrades as well, and now she can create a barrier around herself that. With all these upgrades and preparations, our boy is confident that they can win this war. With 1 hour left before the competition, a portal opens at the National Assembly and knights from the. Our watches from a distance and recognizes the core from the preview videos. The enemy immediately begins erecting 2 large structures. He guesses that these structures are probably meant to protect the gate core. At the same time, some of the Holy Knights move toward the invisible barrier. One of them claims that they have seen their roster and know that only a few are 7th and 8th rank, while most are 9th rank. He then starts trash talking and says that they will rip their tongues out as a form of mercy. Our boy already expected this much from the Holy Knights and he is still confident. The system then notifies the start of the bidding competition. Without wasting a second, the Knight Commander orders everyone to charge. On the other side, the human commander orders his units to open fire. The snipers begin blind firing with the modified rifles. Those rounds have an electric effect, which stuns the enemy knights and allows bullets to damage shields and wound soldiers. The knights quickly activate their barriers to tank the bullets. Their plan is to hold out until the long-range ammo runs out. After a shooter fires 3 rounds, another man hands him a fresh rifle from their magazine system. They report to the hero that 20% of their rifles have been spent. This is all according to his estimates, so he decides to move to the next phase of their plan. It's now time for the offensive team to move. When the castle gate opens, a knight notices their movement and realizes that the enemy might. Another knight dismisses the concern, saying it can't be destroyed and that their focus should remain on. From above, the archer skeleton launches a flaming bowling ball at an enemy squad approaching to assist. The sudden strike takes them completely by surprise, eliminating the squad instantly. The hero notices the smoke and realizes that it's all going according to plan. To his surprise, the enemy has already made a giant of their goddess to protect the gate core. He fires a hellfire missile at it, but the statue remains unscathed. Astonished by its resilience, he considers storing it in their subspace for future use. At that moment, an elder among the enemy knights shouts, claiming the earth is nothing but a mere tribute to their god. Other knights warn him to take cover, but he insists on delivering the goddess's message and, in all of this, our boy notices the enemy warehouse storing all their alien. My man starts drooling and immediately orders Pax to store it in his subspace. As the elder looks around in shock, our boy then asks his friend to pilot the helicopter for a short. The skeleton knight and his sister sends another attack from enemy spare troops. To defend against the incoming attack, the sister initially raises her barrier. The knight explains that these are not ordinary items, but enhanced through a special dimensional technique. The holy knights continue to throw spears as they realize that their warehouse has been stolen. They are enhancing their spears through a special technique called blessing, and Lancelot believes that the same technique has also been applied on the. Hearing this, the sister catches one of the spears, realizing that they might make for excellent weapons. The driver guy notices that the knights aren't firing as many spears as before, so from above, our boy begins dropping the looted construction materials onto the. Each strike triggers massive destruction, and when the smoke clears, the gate core is destroyed. A system notification confirms that the Seoul region bidding competition is over, and that Earth has won. All 100 participants receive dimension accounts, and 5,000 mana stones are. Our hero immediately registers his dad, his older sister, and the driver guy, as eighth. Another floating document appears, granting exclusive establishment rights to the lethal dimension. With this, a red portal opens, leaving him and the others puzzled. When he reaches to touch it, a notification informs him that he must confirm his. The system then offers to buy the rights for 10,000 magic stones. Though he was given the rights as a reward, they are trying to manipulate him into selling them. He recognizes the unfairness of the multi-dimension Chamber of Commerce, since they forced the bidding competition. Angry, he decides to refuse the offer and keep the rights a lesson. At that moment, his father speaks from behind, asking what they should do next. He replies that there isn't much to do, and that the portal ahead doesn't seem useful. His older sister mentions that all the paperwork is finished and says she will go treat the injured. He agrees, giving her permission, then apologizes to his father for summoning him so suddenly, and his father smiles and reassures him that signing a few papers is easy, and our boy tells him he can go rest through the portal. As everyone starts walking away to do their own thing, the dad notices a massive pile of high quality. He is amazed by the sheer amount and asks his son why there is so much. Our boy explains that all the materials belong to them and are infinite, never running out. His father starts lighting up hearing this, as this is basically a dream come true for him. As our boy walks away, he thinks about the bidding competition, noting that the results haven't been fully announced yet because he assumes all regions will get their final results once the time passes. The scene shifts to nighttime, 12 hours later. A system notification announces that all bidding competitions have ended, and the results are being released. In China, 16 out of 117 regions have won, while 1 out of 1 have lost. In India, 24 out of 129 regions are victorious, and 104 other areas' results appear one by one. Out of 5 regions, 4 have won, but 1 region, Incheon, has lost. With this, the overall bidding competition results are revealed. In total, 761 regions took part in the bidding competition, 113 Earth. Because of the defeat, Earth region's grade drops from BB to CCC. The scene moves to the Joint Chief of Staff strategic meeting room. The commander reads the reports and calls the results a disaster. He did not expect such heavy losses worldwide. Still, he points out that Korea's representatives mostly did well since only 1 region failed. He suggests urgently assembling troops to raid that region. At the same time, a soldier bursts in with an urgent update informing that they received an urgent. The commander scans the disaster report and learns the attackers are lizard men from the Savros dimension. Their forces are well trained and skilled in both ground and air combat. 2 hours before the bidding ended, the fighting paused, but the lizard men kept pouring troops through. The staff realized this looks like a direct assault. They wonder why the army is making its way to the city, guessing that it may be related. The skeleton knight looks at the map and notices that the two cities are very close by, meaning that they need. Suddenly, they receive a system notification informing them that the names of all the regional Soul wonders if her brother's name will appear, but neither she nor he sees anything above him. For a moment, they think he might not be the registered regional representative, which would. More system messages arrive mentioning that 7th-tier entities may now travel to Earth. Moreover, the beings from other dimensions who have obtained establishment licenses like the one our boy got can open up new. The group realizes regional representatives are now prime targets, and it's probably a good thing that they. Hearing this, the skeleton knight suddenly thinks of something and steps out the window. Right above the building, he can see a giant tag reading, Soul Rep. Everyone comes outside to look. Our boy realizes his name was there all along, just so high that it wasn't. His sister notes that the label makes him an easy target for the lizard men. This confirms their worry that the attackers had anticipated new rules and prepared ahead of time. The skeleton knight suggests the lizard men treated the bidding like a long-term plan. When the contest eliminate the soul representative, seize the business rights, and open a permanent portal. They seem to know these competitions well and set their moves in advance. Hearing all this, the sister suggests simply hiding in the subspace and attacking. Lancelot explains that his master might be safe this way, but enemies can seize others as hostages or. Our boy argues that subspace alone won't solve the problem. Instead, they should relocate to a defensive position that favors them. Hold the ground long enough and then counterattack with full force. The staff agree this is sensible. Find a strong position, deploy forces and weapons quickly, and form a solid defensive. However, they need to do it fast. This is where the driver guy comes in and assures them that he can move them anywhere as quickly. He asks where they are going to set up their forces. Kim hesitates, admitting that the biggest problem is he hasn't yet chosen the base location. He knows that the location must give them an advantage. Enemies should take heavy damage while he can launch attacks without harming civilians. Turns out, the Gyeong Bridge is a perfect location for them since it restricts enemy movement. Most surrounding areas are parks with few buildings, making civilian. Even if enemies try other paths, they must still pass the bridge and shooters can handle threats from other directions. Once the location is set, they start building defenses using the dads. Moreover, they also have the materials from the other dimension, so a strong defensive. The Emeth warehouse still contains spare materials, which Kim retrieves for. His fighter sister and the archer skeleton stand on top of a fortress prepared to throw the javelins they collected from. Construction continues efficiently below, with barricades strategically placed in shooters. Our boy notes that while barriers can slow ground enemies, air units remain a threat. It takes them just 4 hours to put it all together thanks to his dad's ability. However, even after all of this, they fail to take into account two crucial things. First, that the reptiles are strong swimmers, and the river is 1 kilometer long. Secondly, the woods on the other side provided them an excellent cover, and they were able to sneak up behind. After not being spotted by the group, the enemy General Rakis wonders how the Emeth. At the same time, a lizard man reports to him that General Iatu is ready for the attack. The archer skeleton and soul completely fail at identifying the enemy position and get ambushed by a bunch of. The enemies advance rapidly, shocking her with their speed. Soldiers immediately open fire with the enhanced bullets, which impact the enemy. While our boy throws the Emeth dimension materials through his portal to slow them, the enemies dodge obstacles and continue forward. General Yatta commands his troops to continue advancing since they won't be able to hit them with. The other general orders him to charge, and he obeys, charging straight at our boy. However, he gets stabbed by a spear from above thrown by our hero. This isn't enough to stop him, and the general continues to charge, filled with rage. The skeleton knight notices that both generals are at 7th rank, but the one charging at them, the real danger is General Riki standing at a distance. Keeping this in mind, he asks our boy to handle the big guy while he goes for the main general. The other guy accepts his challenge and orders the big lizard to continue charging. Seeing how the knight dove in without fear, he starts to respect him as a warrior and asks. After exchanging names, the guy asks him if he is ready to put his life on the line and fight him. Lancelot asks him the same thing, but before they begin, he points at his mount and questions if he will fight. The general thinks it fair since they are only testing their own strengths. Hearing this, the knight basically tells him that it's fine since he is so scared of losing his life. This rage bait works perfectly, and the general steps down from his mount. Meanwhile, the soldiers focus all their firepower on the advancing enemies. Despite their efforts, the sheer speed and numbers of the attackers keep them pressing forward. They coordinate, warning each other of the approaching threat, and take cover to tend to an injured comrade. From above, the hero's sister throws a spear at a lizard man, knocking him off the building. Before he can recover, she jumps down and eliminates him completely. She informs the soldiers that she will stop anyone trying to climb the buildings. More lizard men approach, but she takes down another with a precise strike, while soldiers pick off the rest from a distance. Meanwhile, her sister tends to the injured soldier. The enemy also has some fighters attacking from the air, and the archer skeleton has to. Seeing them approaching, he realizes that he might not be able to stop them alone and hopes the person he is waiting. Meanwhile, our boy is still fighting with the general. He keeps him at a distance by continuously firing those enhanced materials at him. Even the monster admits that he is powerful, but it doesn't stop the barrage of attacks. The hero isn't even firing by himself since he has put the shipping on automatic. With one of the generals immobilized, he starts to worry about his skeleton knight. As he looks back, he notices General Rakes holding a holy spear. Just as he tries attacking, the skeleton knight dodges and leaps back. This makes the monster annoyed, and he questions if this is how warriors are. Lancelot wants to prove him wrong, but he understands just how dangerous his weapon is. It seems like he has enhanced it using the same technique from Emeth's dimension. He asks the general if the Emeth dimension crafted the sword for him. The general dismisses it, telling him that it was crafted on their own dimension and the other. My man tries to rage bait the monster again, and asks if he is using that weapon since he doesn't have the skill for a proper fight. The general doesn't take the bait this time, and at a critical moment, the skeleton knight loses his balance, and the spear reaches near the knight's neck, but unexpectedly stops, slips from his hand, rotates, and our boy stores the holy spear as a new item in Emeth warehouse category. With the spear in his arsenal, he assures the lizard guy that he will put it to good use. Seeing all this, the general asks the knight if he is really going to fight dirty. The knight warns him not to talk about his master's plans without knowing anything. The lizard guy gets even more annoyed and starts trash-talking his master. Hearing this, Lancelot mentions that he can sense his fear since he lost his weapon. Now he is using anger to try and hide it, but it's no use since he doesn't even need a sword to defeat him. With this, he drops his sword and gets into a fighting stance claiming that the result will. This makes the general laugh as he also gets into a fighting stance preparing for battle. Meanwhile, our boy checks out the stats of his new blade and realizes just how epic. Since our boy is distracted, the monster notices the attack pausing. He laughs mockingly and asks if he froze in fear after seeing his rock-solid defense. The monster continues boasting about his strength, revealing that no one can stop his charge. However, before he can do anything, two spears come flying and stabs him in the arm. Shock fills his face as he realizes that this spear belongs to his comrade. Before the guy can figure out anything else, he gets bombarded with countless more. A system notification confirms ownership of his dimensional account transfers to our boy along with 1,000 centered. On the battlefield, soldiers continue firing, killing many lizards. The sister sees the lower area cleared and the building safe, but realizes she left the archer. She quickly runs to help, but when she gets there, it's already too late since he has already taken care of all the. Elsewhere, the skeleton knight and the general continue their duel. They are evenly matched in terms of strength, but Lancelot holds the technical. Bro turns into Prime Mike Tyson and starts hammering the lizard man with his punches. The general tries fighting back, but it's no use as he gets hit by a nasty uppercut. With the general on the ground, the knight asks him for his final words. The guy commends him for this glorious battle before getting squished by another punch. With both enemy generals down, the soldiers realize that they have survived the onslaught. At the same time, another soldier quickly informs the chief that they have an urgent message from the Joint Chief of. Moreover, as long as the gate core is open, more and more monsters can just pour in from the other. Meanwhile, our boy continues upgrading his system. He uses 1,000 magic stones and raises his simultaneous shipping to level 3. He also considers the enchantment stone generated from the general he defeated earlier, wondering how. There's also going to be another enchant stone from Camelot, which he factors. However, for now gathering intelligence on the enemy becomes the top priority as the team approaches the bridge. Our boy thinks to himself that they need to find the enemy's gate core, the strength of the defenses. A direct attack would be impossible as they land. He gets acknowledged as colonel by the soldiers and receives formal salutes, though. The lieutenant colonel praises him, noting that despite the lizard men's assault, he destroyed their army without. Explains that the operation chief is absent, handling a minor emergency back at the Joint Chief. It appears that the headquarters has been attacked by some kind of bug-like monsters. Our boy doesn't think it's that serious, so they decide to go on with their planning. The soldier explains that while they know the gate's location, the gate core is still unidentified. They had a sniper deployed, but the area ahead has become swamp-like or hostile, making. Our boy examines images showing the building overgrown with vines and moss. Contact with the environment is harmless, but lizard men could hide anywhere, making free movement. Seeing all this, he figures that his skeleton knights might be able to help. However, when he summons Lancelot, the knight explains that this plan might not work. Even though they can easily move around the terrain in their spirit form, he still won't be able to find their location. However, he knows someone with a special skill to steal information invisibly, using concealment or. Our boy uses 500 mana stones and an enchant stone to summon the assassin. We learn that he is a stealth specialist who can infiltrate enemy territory, gather intelligence, eliminate targets. His has an ability to go invisible, but his body is still influenced by physical things, which. However, with the new ghost enchant stone, they can make him ethereal for the time that he. Our boy assigns him the mission to locate the lizard man, enter their territory, and find the gate core. The skeleton assassin agrees, understanding the mission immediately. Lancelot reminds him that survival is paramount, avoiding strong opponents is crucial, and returning alive is. With that, the skeleton sets off alone. Seeing this, the lieutenant asks if it's really okay to send him alone, but our boy assures they need his information before they can make any plans, so he suggests that every takes some. As everyone starts leaving, he notices that the skeleton knight is still standing. He asks him why he isn't resting, but Lancelot denies feeling tired. Our boy also notices his armor has fewer scratches than before, even after the battle. The knight explains that Camelot allows armor to regenerate if sufficient materials are available. He also points out a newly generated stone with the damage regeneration attribute, which could be useful in the future. Suddenly, he enters combat mode, sensing someone secretly observing them. Our boy panics fearing a nearby lizard man. The knight admits that he only felt their presence and doesn't know their location yet. He suddenly moves toward a container and spots the hidden observer. Before the guy knows it, he is already in front of him. He holds him at sword point and says that his life depends on how he answers his. The knight asks him why he was stalking them from a distance. Meanwhile, our boy hears the screaming and runs over to check what's going on. He shouts, witnessing his knight holding the man by his neck. Lancelot continues choking the man and presses him for an answer as he is running out. With the little life he has left, the man calls out for our boy, and this only makes the knight. Just as he is about to give him the most painful death imaginable, the hero intervenes, revealing that the man he is choking is. Meanwhile, the assassin skeleton moves carefully through the lizardman's territory, passing. He notices that these creatures fight among themselves for honor, acting like a warlike race. Therefore, the scent that's most familiar to them is blood. To make his scent not stand out, he also covers himself in blood, and begins moving towards the. As he walks inside, he wonders why the lizard man would build such a huge entrance, as it seems. Inside, he observes many lizard bands of different sizes, carefully noting their positions while. At one point, he nearly collides with a lizard, shivering at the thought that discovery here. Suddenly, an enemy appears right in front of him, but he uses his skill to slip past. He realizes that without his etherealization ability, he would already be dead. The most important thing for him is to find the gate core and return without being detected. In a deep room, he spots a round-headed creature